connections are ready for
Yeah.
connect
So
on that. Okay.
when we're ready, I'll text her.
Okay.
And,
Perfect.
and,
Appreciate it. Okay.
Yeah, there we go. They don't want to be on Barb's
Of course.
and sent in Barb's towards
Yep. So we'll start with Barb and. I'll give this flatness a couple times tonight, please. Don't hold it against me. I'm a creature of habit.
I can call worse things. All right, we'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. We rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. This time I would call upon Ms. Engel to do the roll call vote, please. Terry Engel here. Joanne Maloney.
Here.
Rich Mueller.
Here.
Travis Rao.
Here.
Dan Schmidt.
Here.
Lauren Schoenrock.
Here.
Rick Schultz.
Here. Thank you. We have an agenda in front of us this evening. Dr. Carlson, do you have any additions or corrections?
No,
I'd entertain a motion to approve.
Make the
I'll
motion.
make the motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Mueller, seconded by Mr. Ralph to approve the agenda. Ms. Engel, please.
Terry Engel, aye. Joanne Maloney.
Aye.
Rich Mueller.
Aye.
Travis Rao.
Aye.
Dan Schmidt.
Aye.
Lauren Schoenrock.
Aye.
Rick Schultz.
Aye. That motion carries. We do not have any teaching and learning features tonight. Public comments, Dr. Carlson, please.
no.
With that, we'll move right into the superintendent's report, please. Dr. Carlson?
Just going to highlight some things from my written report. Just the board has had an opportunity to already participate in one session of the MSBA Leadership Conference, and you have two more opportunities the next Thursday mornings. And if you are having any difficulty or any questions with that, don't hesitate to reach out to either Sue Colseth or myself. A reminder, there is a board work session focused on budget next Monday evening, here and or remotely, beginning at 5:30. We have not had serious discussion about food yet, so Sue and I will work on that and maybe poll you to see what your wishes are, if we want to do that or not. You also had some important things coming up as far as negotiations seminar and officer workshop for those of you officers. So those are opportunities for you as well. The negotiations, I would encourage especially any of you, but especially those folks that are on the negotiation teams within this next year, which will be primarily our teachers and our paraprofessionals. So with that, you also have the reports from our building principals, and I would just leave it to if the board has any questions of them or myself. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Carlson. Do we have any board member comments for this evening? Information and communications, the board association conference is going on Thursday mornings, January 21st and 28th. They continue in the virtual format, of course. We have the budget work session coming up Monday, January 25th at 5:30 p.m. here at the Secondary School Media Center. And then we will continue with the next regular meeting scheduled for Tuesday, February 16th at the Secondary School Media Center here in Richland also. With that, it moves us into the consent agenda items this evening. And Dr. Carlson, I would ask for you to introduce those, please.
Okay, thank you. Part of your consent, you have minutes from the Truth and Taxation on December 21, the regular board meeting on December 21, and then the organizational meeting held on January 4th. You have board bills amounting to $633,049.75. Donations, we have two to announce tonight. America's Farmers Grow Communities, and you'll see, those of you that are here, and sorry, those at home were not able to put a camera on this, but we have a board here just showing the $2,500 donation to that. I believe that has been given towards video and audio improvements in our secondary school gymnasium for $2,500. And also Lester Krieger for Woodlake, $250. So we appreciate those donations to the school district. There's a list of coaching contracts for the winter that we've listed. I'm just going to go through. It's a combination of both head and assistants. Sean Larson and Nate Jensen with wrestling, boys basketball, Hunter Eustace, Tyler Schlick, and Mark Kruger, and Aaron Gilliman. And then for girls basketball, John Schultz, Miles Ottstadt, and Jake Stork. And then for cheerleading, Joni Churchill. So we thank them for that, all the extra time and dedication that they put in to help our students experience those activities. For statewide enrollment options, I always report out to the board what we are doing internally and moving those on. We have 3 resident students open enrolling out of the district for this school year yet to attend other school districts, including, of those, 2 online and 1 student moving to our district but continuing in their former district. We have 5 non-resident students are open enrolling into the school district, including 1 student for this year, and then also already taken students for next school year. Okay, I hope I have covered everything on the consent agenda. If you have questions, want to discuss, or want to vote on something separately, you simply request that that item be pulled out and then the remainder be voted on. Otherwise, there would be a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
I'll second.
Motion made by Mr. Rouse, seconded by Ms. Maloney to approve the consent agenda items as presented. Ms. Engel, please.
Terry Engel, aye. Joanne Maloney,
Aye.
Rich Mueller,
Aye.
Travis Rao,
Aye.
Dan Schmidt,
Aye.
Lauren Schoenrock,
Aye.
Rick Schultz,
Aye. Motion carried. This moves us into the report section. Dr. Carlson, please.
You're done, just leave it, and I will close it out. Well, thank you. Tonight, both Mr. Anderson and Mr. Bunn are going to be providing an overview of interventions in place at each school to assist students who are not being successful in different ways. And so not only programs that have been in place, but also things that are in the works for either yet this school year or beyond. So I think Mr. Anderson's going to start. And so thank you.
So I am here tonight to share with you the intervention programs and student support that we have available for students at the elementary. I also would like to mention that our Title I lead teacher, Sarah Erke, and our reading interventionist, Jess Williams, they are also available and are part of this meeting tonight. They will be, can answer any questions that you may have regarding our intervention programs at the elementary. So during those times that our students experience academic challenges, there are a couple different ways that at the elementary we can provide support for them. One is that our teachers can differentiate instruction, which is to tailor instruction to meet their individual needs. Another way is that our students can receive individual and small group interventions that target the need or target the instruction in order to accelerate their academic growth. So the programs that we have available to our students at the elementary, we have Title I, and we serve students in both reading and math, that's K through 5. We have the Minnesota Reading Corps, that's for our students kindergarten through grade 3. And with the Reading Corps, we have an in-person individual that works in our building, and we also have an online tutor that supports students. We have a reading interventionist. We have special education support for our students. We have strong paraprofessional support for students. We have a retired senior volunteer program. You'll hear more about that in just a moment. And we have a targeted services program. And I just wanted to mention with our balanced literacy program, a special focus for us this year has been on leveled literacy instruction with our students. And that's small group instruction for students who are finding that reading skill or writing skill difficult, and using engaging leveled books and fast-paced, systematically designed lessons with professional development built in. Our teachers and our school staff are able to provide those interventions to help increase their reading and writing proficiency. At the elementary school, data drives our interventions and our support. And so these are the assessments that we use to support those interventions. Grades kindergarten through 2, we use the FAST assessments in both reading and math, and those are given 3 times a year. We have our STARS assessment in grades 3 and 5, also reading and math, given 3 times a year. Then with our literacy program, we have something called benchmark assessments, which those help us to determine the appropriate instructional reading level for our students, and that's very important when we go into those guided groups. We give those 3 times a year, fall, winter, spring as well. And then we have the MCAs that are given to grades 3 and 5, typically March and April. And then we also have running records, which is a reading account that we provide to our students. It's timed, and we use that to help us determine an appropriate reading level. And those are given during those times when school staff feel that we maybe could make an adjustment with that reading level. So those are school-wide assessments, but there are also several teacher-developed assessments, and those are summative assessments that are maybe given at the end of a unit of study, formative assessments given periodically to just check progress, chapter and unit assessments. Quite a few teachers at the end of a lesson will give something called an exit ticket, which might be just on a post-it note, a quick task that's given to the students to determine whether or not they comprehend that concept. And then teacher observations. Title I, we receive federal dollars for this, and we've identified a group of children who are at risk, are at below grade level, and we then provide those services, support, and reading and math interventions for those students. A lot of the title support is provided individually to students. We do have some situations where we may have a small group of 2 as well. So we have a Title I lead teacher, that's Sarah Erke, and then we have 4 reading and math paraprofessionals. And one of the things that's been key for us during this time of different learning models, during hybrid model and during distance learning model, our Title I staff has continued to work with these students. On the days that those kids are home on the hybrid model, they're on a Google Meet with them, taking care of that intervention. When we were on distance learning, same thing, our Title I lead teacher and paraprofessionals had appointments, and we're meeting with students on those targeted interventions. We have the Minnesota Reading Corps, and that is our program to support literacy for students kindergarten, grade 3. We use our assessments to determine who needs the support the most, and we start there. Kids graduate out of this program. We successfully are able to move kids along so that they can meet their goals, and then we continue to fill those places with other students that need that support as well. And we have our full-time on-site reading corps tutor, and then we also have a part-time reading tutor who meets virtually with students. And something new this year that was provided to families is they have an opportunity to have an online tutoring program. Maybe they're not a part of the in-person or the virtual, but they have access to that support through the Minnesota Reading Corps. Jessica Williams is our internal coach and supports our tutors. Our reading interventionist, Jess Williams, not only works with our struggling students on a daily basis, but she works with those students who excel and are in need of interventions at their level to support their learning and their continued academic growth. And currently at the elementary, this is a 0.75 FTE position that we have with Jessica. Our special education programming is an important part of the interventions and support that we provide to our students. And also during the distance learning models and hybrid learning models, we've been bringing students in with the hybrid model on the day that they would be at home. They come into school and they receive core support from our special education staff, but then they're also spending time meeting their IEP goals as well. And the same thing has taken place during distance learning. And during distance learning, 34 of the 36 students were attending, so that's 94% of our students. And during hybrid learning, we were able to have 100% attendance. Our paraprofessionals, special education paraprofessionals, are a strong piece of this program. They have different trainings that help to support their work. They receive a lot of development and support from the case managers, the special education teachers as well. Then we have the AmeriCorps Senior Volunteer Program. It used to be called the Retired Senior Volunteer Program. And this is likely one group of adults that has been greatly missed by our students and staff this year due to the pandemic and guidelines. Their weekly presence, their encouragement, their academic support is an important part of the elementary intervention program. And they come in weekly. They work with kids on literacy. They're reading books, they're talking about books, they're reading to the students are reading to them. And the cafeteria and the hallways are just buzzing on the days that they're in our school. We also have a targeted services program, which at this point is on pause due to the pandemic. We offer an after-school program for those struggling students who, based on our data, based on those assessments, we determine what they need, and then we provide that an hour after school on Tuesdays and on Thursdays. And that's been during the school year. We also, during the summer, have a program that we run for 4 weeks in July, which has been highly successful. We focus on STEM activities, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. We have a novel that we use as a theme for the year, or for the 4 weeks, that ties it all together. And the one requirement about targeted services is that it can't look the same as any other program that you would offer during the year. So this is very much a hands-on, activity-based program with an emphasis on reading and math. An important part of our intervention programs and support is the Student Assistance Team, or SAT, that we have in each building. And I guess to summarize what they do, they're that check-in group, they're that peer support, they're the group where staff can come and ask questions. I've got this kid who is struggling with this. Here's what I've tried. What do you recommend? The members that make up the SAT committee, we have about 15 of them, and they're classroom teachers, social workers, administrators, special education teachers, counselors, and so a wide variety of people. And we're talking about kids, we're talking about what they need, and how can we give that to them. And then we check in with them. We have them come back after they've had a chance to implement some interventions, and they let us know how it's going. They share the data with us. We'll decide whether or not, if they're showing progress, we're going to continue with that intervention. If they're not, we're probably going to talk about changing the intervention, because obviously that intervention isn't doing what we want it to do. This committee also is that resource committee. After we've tried everything else and we've completed all of our interventions, if we still see that there's a need, this would be the team that would probably initiate the special education referral process. So during this year of the pandemic, just to summarize, what have we been doing to provide additional support? Our Title I staff continues to meet, even though students may not be in school full-time. Meet with students. Our reading core staff continues to meet virtually. We have our special education students that are in the building no matter what the model. And our district daycare is is a very important piece of support that we provide to students too. Those students that do attend daycare, we've built in at least a half a day of academic support during the time that they're there. And that keeps everybody exactly where they need to be. It keeps them on pace, and I think it's been successful. And our teachers continue to meet virtually with small groups of students. Our future plans, we have plans to continue the targeted services program, but we are also looking at providing additional support, probably using those leveled literacy interventions that are very targeted and focused on exactly what that student needs. And we're thinking about possibly 2 weeks in June and then 2 weeks in August with students. And then we hope to bring our AmeriCorps seniors back as well. Jessica and Sarah, is there anything that you would like to add that possibly I missed?
Nope, we did great.
Thank you. Do you have any questions?
So Doug,
Yep.
only because I'm not that far removed, with the, when the kids are back, especially like now when you're rolling out the lower elementary kids, is
Yep.
the plan to, with the reading, is the plan to benchmark to get an idea where all the children are since we've been away for so long?
Yeah, and you know, most of our classrooms did even benchmark in the fall.
Right,
But we didn't necessarily benchmark every student because we were in the hybrid model. We prioritized who do we need to focus on most urgently. But yes, we are benchmarking that's happening right now.
right.
In fact, that every child will be benchmarked. We will find their reading level, which is extremely important when we're doing our guided reading groups. And then we'll benchmark again in May.
Is there a benchmark component with the math as well?
Yes, there is.
That's good.
Yep, and also with the Bridges Math, we have interventions. We purchased, it's a new program this year, but we also purchased the intervention piece for the Bridges in Mathematics as well.
And then my final question is, with the SAT committee, have you seen an increase in kids needing, or has that kind of been stagnant?
You know, we continue to meet. I wouldn't say that I've necessarily noticed an increase. I think maybe the chair of that committee has had maybe a few more questions provided by staff, but we haven't necessarily seen an increase in need. But our teachers and our staff do a very good job of identifying the appropriate intervention. So especially with the materials and resources that we have available to us, we're able to pinpoint exactly what they need. And so a lot of that they're just doing on their own, but that committee's there if they need that help.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
I fell and went boom. And if I wear dress pants, this thing will go. And I'll close it out for you afterwards. So don't do anything.
Okay, you'll get kind of the mix of some things that have gone on in the secondary building, both during the pandemic and some other things that have been ongoing. Doug mentioned the SAT team. We also have one over here as well. And same sorts of people, myself, Brooke Crone, Robin Eder, and some other teachers are also part of that. But the first thing, special education, We have some of the, same supports in terms of special education. When the executive order came back, we're able to get some more students back when we were DL, distance learning. Some took advantage of that and others did not. However, what we're seeing now is we just sent out a list of students, special education students, that will be coming 4 days a week now. And so we're pretty excited about that opportunity to get those kids in the building more often. I mentioned that this year we kind of started the wraparound meetings. Long story short, basically one of those is that we would meet with the parents, the student, and all the teachers that student has. And those have typically happen before school or after school. We talk about strengths, talk about things that aren't going well, the student's able to express why they're struggling. And then we work and brainstorm together to try to come up with a plan to try and help mitigate some of the struggles. Try to make some goals for the kids, and that has been very positive, I think, in terms also with relationship with families and such. To be honest, I think it's pretty moving, if you will, when you have 7 or 6 teachers. They're all focused on, the one child in their family and how we can try and help out during this time. So we will continue to do those as I believe we move forward. That was started or suggested by the SAT team. Next one, truancy on it may sound like it's punitive in nature. However, the steps that we have to kind of intervene when a kid is missing too much school, we use TRB, Truancy Review Board. That's out of Waseca County. Or Steele County is ARB. No, I can't even remember what it stands for now, sorry, but it's the same type of situation. And so we will send a letter saying that, we're concerned about your students' attendance. A lot of times, Brooke or Robin or myself have had a conversation, hey, what's going on? Why are you not attending? That sort of thing. But typically what comes out of those meetings is a contract, if you will, or an agreement. And so the kid agrees and parents agree to do this and the school agrees to do this. So a lot of our ones that have come out of this as of recent, we've started to have those kids attend 4 days in person as well. So that talks a little bit about the truancy part. We have had some other students that, we have to try and balance this out, so we can't just open necessarily open the floodgates. We have to make sure that we look at the numbers, how many kids do we have in the classroom at one time, and the spacing, the 6 feet and all that. But we have brought some other students that are struggling as well. And as we move forward and we talk a little bit more about the sixth grade and the seniors, once that or can happen, we will also see what other kids that we can start to filter in as well. Our REACH program, that's been going for a couple of years now. It's an elective course. Robin Eder teaches that along with Brooke. We gained another day of service from Brooke, our social worker. This is really what they work on. They work on relationships. They set academic goals. They also work through some of the barriers that they might have for education, and some of those types of activities. They work on accountability, character. They do some different projects. So they did the piece for the veterans out front that we had, and they've raked leaves for some of our elderly folk in the past, and some other projects as well. So it's just really a positive type of scenario, and a really good resource. Kids are, it's part of, I consider it part of more of a REACH family. They're able to talk about certain things that maybe they might not talk about in a regular or general classroom. And so very, very, very positive addition, and Brooke and Robin just do a great job with that. SAT, I'm not going to go through all of that, but whoops, Dale, will you give me one of those mice that goes 90 miles an hour? SAT, you know, same sort of thing, address concerns that teachers will have, try to brainstorm, and try to provide support for those kids. We have, that's cool. This thing is going crazy, Dale. We have credit recovery. Prior to, I want to say about 3-4 years ago, our kids, if they were credit deficient, they would have to go to the Waseca ALC. And you can imagine it was after school, major barrier for kids. And so a few years back, we started offering an in-house credit recovery through our Acellus program, which is an online piece. And Robin is kind of the gatekeeper of that. And what happens is they will work through assignments, tests, things like that. If they need help, the program will stop them, and then Robin can intervene and try to assist and get them back on track, and then they continue on through the curriculum. So it's, I think, been very pivotal. We just had a couple folks that just graduated, was that, Sue, about a month ago? And that was because of this program and because of the persistence of Mrs. Eder. Not sure I should say this, but she even called the place where one of the kids was working and said, you need to get going on this and finish, and what can we do to help you out? So, you know, in terms of summer school, we also run credit recovery through the year, and we also run it in the summer. We're also looking at expanding summer school and for 6th through 8th graders. And so we're just kind of starting to have some discussions what that might look like. Will we use Acellus? Will we not? Will we use some other format? But we're pretty happy with what we've gotten with Acellus, so we may start there and see how it goes. The most recent are that we've tried to implement to try and get our kids' grades up. Our grid days, so on Thursday and Friday, students that are not passing courses will be here. The other students, they can check into their first hours on those 2 days, and then they're exempt from any other work. But we're going to bring them in and work in small pods. Mrs. Bentley and Kelly De La Cruz helped create this idea. The staff it came out of a staff meeting that we talked about, and I worked with Mrs. Bentley and Kelly, and we came up with this. We've sent communication out to parents and kids today. We had to make sure that we have the transportation piece in place, and so I had to send a list to Carla, and then she's then in turn sent that out to the drivers to make sure that we have adequate space and things for the kids to get here as well. So for 2 days, they'll be here focusing, trying to get their grades up, and try to get them to a passing point here. And this is the first time we've ever done this, so we're hopeful. I know some other schools, it is a very great concern of administrators across the state and just in our local area talking about kids in the pandemic and just how some are not engaging. So we're inviting also our distance learners to come in if they so choose. Go ahead, Ms. Bentley.
I only wanted to point out that we thought it might also be something have a sort of pre-effect. And I personally have already taken 5 kids off the grid list today because they were so anxious not to have to serve these 2 extra days. So that alone seems to be a valuable tool.
Yes. And, quite honestly, we have had different days in the past where we've had a PBIS reward type scenario, or near the end of the quarter celebration, or something along that lines for kids that have done what they needed to do and asked to do. And so we feel like this is a positive step. But yeah, she's right. Every teacher that I have spoken to this week, the number of assignments that seem to be coming in are rapid. Why? It couldn't have happened before. We got to keep working with them. Future next steps. Right over there, I was talking to Mrs. Engel. That's part of the Fontes and Pinnell piece that is done over at the elementary school. We're going to start with the 6th graders in implementing our reading intervention. And Jess Williams will help with that. Terry had asked a little bit about training. I'm hopeful that maybe in the summer that's a piece that we can take a little harder look at for that 6th grade staff. But she will work in the immediate with our 6th grade team and our media paraprofessional, Diane Etlin. We also got the benchmark piece, and so we'll start there, and then.
So is Diane gonna do all that benchmarking of the sixth graders?
No, I think Jess is gonna help out with that too.
So then, isn't Jessica hired to be the interventionist in the Allendale Elementary building?
Correct.
So then how much time is she gonna be gone from that position?
It sounded, yeah, she's gonna have to work her schedule out, so I don't know.
So I mean, if she's only 0.75 or whatever, I mean,
Calling in everybody we need to as a district.
because it's, then maybe some of the kids that need it in the elementary aren't gonna get what they need? That's what I'm worried about.
I can answer that, Carrie. I'm still here.
Okay,
I work right now, since I'm a 0.75 position. I only work 4 days a week in my intervention position because of that. So I do Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday, interventions in the elementary. The other part of my position is teaching and learning support specialist, and I do that on Wednesdays. So I will just be coming over there on Wednesdays in order to train Diane and the sixth grade teachers how to use these resources.
okay. So are those interventions gonna take place throughout the week or only on one day?
I think the plan is for Diane, I believe, for Diane and sixth grade teachers to do that. I'm just training them. I'm not going to be, I might do some interventions in the beginning, show them how and help benchmark, but beyond that, I'm not going to be providing those interventions because I'm in Ellendale, as you said.
Okay, thank you.
One of the other things that we're looking at, and we'll talk about this tonight, but looking at getting those, like we did in the elementary, the youngest folks, let's take a look at trying to get our sixth graders back, 4 days a week. And I've been working with the sixth grade team and sixth grade specialists and reviewing making sure that we can do everything that we need to do in terms of mitigation strategies and such. Also, we want to bring back our seniors. We believe we have enough students, and we're still balancing that out, but we believe we have enough students distance learning that we can bring the seniors kind of all back at one time. We talked a little bit with the regional support team, and we'll get into this a little later, but one of the suggestions that they had is if you have a class that has potentially a few too many, that maybe for a day or so, a day or whatever, they might go to the media center or the lower commons and still join the class maybe just for that hour and rotate that around so other kids are able to or will need to do that as well. So those are some things that we're looking at. And then the most recent, we're looking at some after-school homework help. And we actually, more than conversations, we have a proposal sent and we're awaiting final approval for that. Mrs. Eater and Mr. Strina will help with that, and Mr. Strina will help more of the 6 through 8, and Robin will do more of the 9 through 12. And she also will probably have some of those kids that are doing credit recovery they will also come in sometime as well. So that's kind of in a nutshell where we're at and what we're looking at doing. So
I have a question about when you talk about the grid and your wraparound meetings. We kind of said a ballpark figure, like there was approximately 100 kids that were that had multiple failing grades. Have you met with all of them?
No.
Okay, so here's the other thing then.
We prioritized with seniors first.
That makes sense to me. But what I'm worried about here too is like that we're just putting a Band-Aid in, just like, let's just get your homework done so, you know, you get a passing grade. But are we finding out what the problem is behind that? Because yep, some of them, they're just not doing their homework, but they understand it. You know, how many of your kids are failing because they don't you know, they're performing at a lower level than in math, like say algebra, or they can't read past the 6th grade level and they're in 10th grade and things like that. What systems do you have in place to measure that kind of learning deficit?
So I think, well, right now, that's going to be a slow progression. So we're starting with the 6th grade. That eventually will expand. But that is not an immediate, you know, we don't have a magic wand that can
That's
fix
my
that
saying
immediately.
is like, all we know is that these kids are failing, but we don't know. It's like going to the doctor and the doctor says, well, you're sick.
It's the chicken or the egg.
You know, so-
We've wrestled with that for a long time.
And then like, so how many wraparound meetings did you have?
Oh, let's see here. I should have written it down. I took part of, and I couldn't make every single one, but for 3 solid weeks, you know, we had one before school and one after. So that's about 20, I believe.
And so then is there follow-ups with that, or?
Mm-hmm. Liz has been trying to follow up, you know, with kids as well.
So do you have a timeline on when you anticipate getting through all the kids, students with failing grades in the wraparound meeting? Is that when you'll get through them, or that, I'm sure that list is always changing too, but.
Right, because we'll hit a new semester and we'll kind of have to reset the clock a little bit.
Are you gonna follow up with kids the students that had failing grades in this semester, once they start, to keep them going to get that grade up?
So then with the REACH, what percentage of the kids with failing grades are in the REACH program? Do you know?
I don't know that. We identified the free and reduced, and special ed and some others, but not REACH in particular.
I guess I just feel like with all the kids that are behind and stuff like that, that it would be nice to get some kind of a concrete plan together so that we don't forget about them. Oh, they failed last semester, now what are they, you know, and let's just forget about them. And the other thing is like with people calling, it's like, okay, so the kids that are doing well don't have school? I mean, that's just another day that they're not going to be in front of an instructor. If I had a kid in high school, all these days are precious, and I just hate to take a day away from the kids that are doing well and then they're not in school. So I have a hard time with that one. I don't know what the answer is, but.
And this is our attempt. You know, we're not happy with that many kids not doing well, and we have to start somewhere.
But I think it's sad that it has to be, okay, so you're all doing really well, so it'd be just like a basketball team or something, tell them you're all playing really good, so we're going to take the kids on the bench and work with them, and you guys don't get to practice tonight, type of a scenario. I don't know. I think they should be in school.
Well, that would be fine, but then we're not gonna get really drilled at trying to, you know, hopefully save some of these other students, and we're gonna have more kids credit deficient and not graduating on time.
So it's,
Yeah, I guess it kinda sounds like a lot of work to me. I'm not really sure how he's supposed to get, I think we need to exercise a little patience.
yeah, but,
Not but we need to exercise some patience, I feel like. I feel like they're trying pretty hard.
It's priorities.
Yeah, and the priorities aren't easy, but you're not gonna whistle through 100 kids in 2 weeks. You better work some overtime.
Dave, this is Rich. Just bouncing off of Terry's idea of having other kids in the school. Is that a possibility to have them come in and kind of help other students?
Now we got a potential capacity issue. We are gonna utilize, Liz actually has started looking at with NHS. I don't know if she hasn't called anything in particular, but she would work with, or have the NHS kids work with some of the younger kids, study buddies or whatever you want to type of call that. But for Thursday and Friday, no.
Other questions?
A portion of this, back to the failing grade subject, and I'll just try and kind of put this, because we do have to keep the meeting moving forward too. There's a lot left to cover here tonight, but again, and for those joining us virtually, thank you again for listening in and hearing this discussion. And I think the one thing that bears mentioning here that hasn't been already is the fact that these are wounds that we are suffering as a district of these failing grades and the amount of them. And I, along with the rest of the board and staff and everyone involved here, is overwhelmed with. It's not unique to NRHEG's district. And again, Dr. Carlson researched a little bit of this with neighboring districts, and I'm not saying that makes it better and that makes it something we need to ignore. But I think it bears mentioning that this is a result of the year we're trying to navigate through. And again, is the answer next Wednesday? No, I think it's going to take some time to heal this. I think our administration understands that the message from the board is do what we can to address this, and I think we can expect that they will work hard to address that, and that we will follow up and see where this goes. But again, not something that's totally unique to the NRHEG district here. So keep that in mind when we talk about this particular subject.
And a lot of this is also conversation with other nearby principals and, hey, what are you doing? What are you trying? So it isn't necessarily done in isolation either.
well, I appreciate the plan and everything. I just wish the other kids could not have to miss school, was my point. But I appreciate the hard work that went in to figure that out and to get the kids in so that they can bring their grades up.
Any other questions on that particular subject, or else we'll move on to number 12, the recommended actions, and that's student achievement. Excuse me.
No.
I need my other.
Okay.
Schultz, we have a second item in the same
Okay.
report
Excuse me.
that we'd just like to, as Mr. Bunn
Okay.
remains up
Excuse
there.
me.
But I'm going to just make some introductory comments. The topic here is secondary in-person transition process update. You may remember at the January 4th organizational meeting, there's discussion about interest by all of us, of course, but about what's next. That discussion, when we were putting plans in place to begin our rolling start, actually this week at the elementary school, 4 days a week in person, which is going well so far after 2 days. But what's next? When can we, I think, when can we start looking at what's the plan for the secondary school? At that time, I had said that we were in the process of requesting a consultation with our regional support team, and that was held on January 12th. We talked at length about where we're at and what, emphasized again that looking ahead to the elementary, getting that going with the in-person. We talked about this building. I think in general I can say that there was not support, there was concern about moving too quickly for grades 6 through 12 based on the number of the metrics and data. The guidance has not changed, at least as of today, I think, for secondary schools. The focus and everything that happened back on December, I want to say 16th, that focus was on elementary schools, and the updated guidance was targeted for elementary schools. So that's not changed. Maybe it's been a while since I shared some of the data, and this isn't the 14-day lag data, but this is what we're projecting for our 3 counties for the period of January 3rd through the 16th, so this would have just ended on Saturday. And so this would be what won't come out this Thursday, it'll be the following Thursday, I think January 28th. Waseca will be in the range of 50 to 55. Steele will possibly be in the range of 46 to 52. And Freeborn, 110 plus. Now, as you look at these, like we've done all along, we don't dismiss this data, we keep this, but this continues to be some primary data for the secondary level, as well as what's happening within our walls. I know that Donna Olson is on with us, so Donna, I can go ahead and, you and I talked this afternoon, you just correct me if I make an error, but as of today, we have 1 elementary staff person that is positive, and 2 students, 1 elementary, 1 secondary, positive. We have 2 staff, 1 in each building, that are quarantined, and we have a total of 7 students, 1 elementary and 6 secondary, that are quarantined. As of today or yesterday, I think what you'll see in general, for the most part, there might be an exception or two, but these Waseca, Steele, and Freeborn school districts have or are in the process of moving elementary to in-person like us. However, most of the middle school and certainly the high school grades continue to be in the hybrid learning. There are some regional districts in different counties that are either in the process of moving some or all of their secondary grade levels to in-person beginning as early as next week and throughout phasing in the next couple weeks. Our team has proposed a phased approach following the K-5 process, beginning with grade 6, that Mr. Bunn will go over that a little bit more in detail, and we have submitted that late today to our regional support team for review. Also, as Mr. Bunn alluded to earlier, that an attempt to try to bring in more of our seniors, still following the hybrid mitigation strategies, but bringing in 4 days a week. So So just some introduction, but we're just going to give a quick overview of the grade 6 proposal.
So part of the mitigation strategies that, we believe that we also need to follow is the same as the elementary, the 3-foot scenario. And with our 6th grade, we believe that we can accommodate that. Long story short, so what we would do is 6th grade students would remain in their classrooms for the first 5 hours of the day. And right now they're currently together for the first 3. In years past, they've been the first 2, but now we've extended that because of COVID to the first 3. Hours 4 and 5, the 6th grade teachers would switch rooms, and in order to keep those groups together. Lunch would be delivered to the 6th grade rooms, and we'd need auxiliary staff to supervise the students to ensure that obviously the 6th grade teachers get to eat as well. Hours 6 and 7, when students go to specials, art, PE, choir, band, and study hall. During transition times, for 6th and 7th hours, 6th grade students would pass after the rest of the hybrid students have transitioned into the next class. So they'd just be a little bit behind the rest of them. PE would occur with masks, same as it does now in the hybrid scenario. Art will be in the art classroom. There's adequate space there. Band, there's adequate space in the band room, and they will, Mr. Odstott will follow the music guidance with that. Choir, depending on how many kids now would take advantage of this versus continuing distance learning. If we have enough room, we would like to continue that in the choir room. Otherwise, we'll have to look at other auxiliary places that might be a little bit larger that would allow us to do that. Maybe the potential of the stage or the commons area, or the high school gym as well could be utilized during that time. So, we're looking at, once this would be approved by the regional support team and you folks, we try to get that going as soon as we could. We've talked a little bit about the 12th graders returning in person. We surveyed them, and there was, I believe it was about 66% said, you know what, I'd come back 4 days a week. There's still a certain, the rest of the percentage that want to do the distance learning.
So can I stop you just there, Dave, just
Yep.
so I understand that correctly? The distant learners are the ones that 66% of those would return, or the entire
No, the entire
class?
The entire class.
So how large is our senior class this year, roughly? I don't mean to put you on the spot with an exact. Are we a 70 student,
I think so.
70-some
Yeah,
student?
I think they're about
So
70-some.
So at
'cause the juniors, I
70-some students at a 70% return rate, so we'd be talking about 49 students. And right now, if we're hybrid on a 70, we've got 35 every other day.
Correct.
So we'll be adding an additional 14 students in a 7-class or a 7-hour period. Is that correct?
Correct.
I mean, I'm doing the math of we're adding potentially 2 students to each class. And are we struggling with approval of that, or what's? to me, that's where my frustration is on the timing of this coming back. I don't think we're changing the world that much by adding these students back is what
I don't think we're more confident based on how the numbers are. I don't mean to,
Right, and I'm
but
interrupting.
I think that there's no question, the senior issue, I believe we're pretty confident we can just do everything we can to make that happen. It
Okay,
is something that we are going to inform. We added that to our regional support team communication today. But as long as we can maintain the hybrid strategies there,
right,
the distancing is the main issue. And certainly don't go over the 50% capacity in any space. We can do that. It's just, we just want to make sure that it's all planned and that we don't have any surprises within and I don't know, a mixed class that might be heavy on juniors or in sophomores, some seniors, and how are we doing with the number? And do we have everything that we can, is that set to go? So, and I think that to prepare for, we would hope that in the future, more students, full-time distance learners would come back. It's something that we're going to have to monitor and watch closely. We've kind of put out there since the start of the year, if you're going to commit to distance learning, we're looking at that 4 to 5 week commitment to give us some time, before you want to return. And so, but we'll be monitoring that to, if we have more seniors, part of that 30% who want to return, how will we manage that? Because right now, the 6th grade proposal is not, we're proposing that we are not under the hybrid distancing. That's following more closely the elementary strategies, mitigation strategies. So that's something different. I don't know if that...
It does, but again, I'm back to that, and and I'll let other people speak here too, but I'm not so sure that isn't a consistent issue throughout some of these upper levels even too. We're talking about seniors here, and I think that's a priority. But I think those scenarios exist perhaps throughout those upper, maybe the entire secondary of the percentage of people that we'd actually add to a 4-day week in person, all in. I really struggle if that throws us over our limitations. And again, I respect you from not knowing that until we're into it, but I just hate seeing that be the holdup, because I'm not sure it's going to throw us into a disqualification of following guidelines. But Travis?
I'm just kind of curious, because I don't recall, or maybe I once knew, but isn't there, so if you decide you go distant, now we're at the end of the quarter here, right? And so now we start a new quarter. If you decide you're one or the other, is that what you have to do for that? I mean, can your numbers change drastically once you get rolling?
Well,
I
it's
thought
different
once
if they're going out than
They
when they
can't.
come in. So we like more time when they're coming in, just to make sure that,
If they want to go out, they can just leave, basically.
Correct.
Go distant, but if they want to come back, it's not. Or
Right.
If they change, I'm just wondering if somebody changes their, let's say we get rolling and you get all set, and then you have a big influx. Well, out wouldn't be much of a problem, but in, I suppose, could be.
And that might be, one of the possibilities. Again, this is just, I want to be careful what's said. This is still all in the planning, but we might, if we still are having to operate under the same hybrid distancing things, maybe we're not able to accept X number of people back from full-time distance learning. But that would be just speculation at this point. And so we would just see how that would evolve.
But we have the survey, and that math was done relatively quickly through that, and I would want to double check that, but that's just my concern, is that I don't think that inviting some of those classes back with that type of a survey, and that's fresh information. I would hope that that's accurate, that people gave us accurate information. I hope we're not treading water here for longer than we need to when we could potentially be meeting expectations and guidelines and
So, Mr. Schultz, one of the, it would come as part of recommended actions, but, and we don't have this as a draft motion for you, but we thought that so we can keep this going with the sixth grade, it might be advantageous to have the board actually, support us continuing moving forward with the regional support team with grade 6. We don't feel right now, if we think we can manage under the current hybrid model, as far as those strategies, as far as distancing and so on, we think administratively, we should just be able to move forward with those other plans, such as seniors and so on. So that, unless the board feels differently, that's not something that we are coming to ask the board for approval on that, if we are able to manage and stay within the hybrid safety protocol.
do we need the regional support stamp on that if we're within those guidelines?
And we're not really asking for, we informed them of that, of the seniors, so we're not really asking for their support on that.
Okay.
It's something we just want to be open and transparent
Right.
as we try to work through the logistics to get that going. Yep.
So, but between the sixth, I think I kind of understand the sixth grade. I suppose they probably will benefit the most from in-person learning as far as the high school goes. But what was your decision-making process?
Sixth,
When you're talking about 6th and 12th grade is?
sixth grade, because we can really kind of do the elementary mitigation strategies.
At least that's our argument,
Yeah.
that we should be able to, granted, if sixth grade is not part of our elementary school, and so if you read the guidance, it talks about being part of that school. But we feel that with what we have put forward, that we, it's, for the most part, most of the day, we can isolate the grade in a certain part of the building. And so I feel but we put that forward to that team. Because one of the main things is it's located in this building, this is a hybrid learning building right now. So this would change that for sixth grade.
And seniors, I suppose, I'm guessing because of graduation concerns and things like that, or is it?
Yeah, and, I mean, let's call it how it is. They suffered enough. Let's get them back.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Trying to give, as best as we can, trying to give them as much of a year that we can. And, but yes, the graduation, if we feel that we will, if we'll enhance and help the opportunity for those soon-to-be graduates to be more successful in the second semester.
Well, and I didn't count it myself, but I was told here a week or so ago, like the seniors have like 30-some days of class left if we maintain hybrid.
I guess
That's
counted.
not, I could be wrong, but anyway, if you think about that way,
Not
they
very
don't,
much.
the way we're going, they don't have many days of school, of in-person school.
There's a lot of different opinions and thoughts about if you're going to try to attempt to phase in who should, and that's not, this is what's tough about this. It's not it's not about a certain grade level being more important than another. It's just partly what can we do, what do we think we can make happen successfully, beginning with our grade 6, and as well as our seniors. So,
Well, I feel confident that we can do at least that, and I think administration perhaps feels that way too by the tone of you two talking tonight. But can you give us, what date would you plan on potentially making this happen, or what's holding us back from this happening tomorrow, for instance? Or where are we at on that?
for the seniors,
And the sixth grade, or aren't we talking about them coming together?
Not necessarily. Again, we feel, the grade 6 proposal, that was sent to the regional support team today.
Do we have any type of an idea when we would hear back from them?
I will be following up again tomorrow, but no,
Okay.
no.
And what would be the issue if they have some hang up on it? What's to say that we?
But we would have to listen to them to see what are the issues that they're saying that prevent us, and see if we can address them, and I guess we'd have to address that when that time comes. I'm hoping that we've presented a good proposal to make that happen, so.
Again, without pinning you down on a date here, but I do want to keep hitting that. So it sounds to me like there's an expectation that you will hear back sooner than later on that potential. I mean, this isn't I know it took us a long time to get an appointment with them, first off,
right.
but now that we're in and having conversations with them, do you feel like this is something that could potentially...
Yeah.
And I think that's the underlying tone that we've struggled with as the board, and as you as administrators have struggled with the same thing, but this ongoing process of getting answers and getting these things developed, only to watch guidelines change and this feeling out in the public and with students as the year is getting away from us, and that's why we've had this underlying tone from the board of a plan and some dates that could potentially give us something to look forward to ease the pain of the students suffering through this issue.
Well, I've been putting I put a little thought, but anyway, like my wife and my different family members now are starting to get the vaccine, and there's, now I know one of my coworkers today is over 65 and he's on the list now. And I wish we had a solid timeline for that, but COVID won't be a moot point, but it'll be a lot less bigger deal here. I just wish I knew exactly when everybody that wants to be vaccinated could be, and then we could, as far as I'm concerned, we can get with
Put
it.
a timeline here, and that's where I think...
Well, I'd rather not miss that, although let's not wait till a month after everybody's vaccinated
Right.
here. Let's get with it,
Right.
and maybe we're gambling a little, trying to hit if we're picking dates ahead of time on when everybody will be vaccinated, but it's something to bear in mind that is coming, vaccinations are coming in, so.
Mr. Bud, do you see a disadvantage of bringing 6th grade and seniors back on the same day? Say we get approval tomorrow for 6th grade, that they call us back and they say, thanks for your hard work on the plan, it's a go. You don't see any disadvantage of bringing seniors back at that same start date? Is there something that we're missing as a...
We were kind of looking, and this is, the original hope was the start of second semester, like that.
Sure.
That might be just a little bit potentially delayed. We want to, maybe
Sure.
not so much with the seniors, but 6th grade, we want to make sure we communicate it out and, but.
And I apologize, that date is...
That's
we're-
26.
26.
Or,
Yeah,
Week
roughly.
week
Okay,
today.
okay, thank you.
yep,
The 26th of January?
yes,
Okay.
because that's a
So,
start
so you are preparing, and again, just to be clear, and I'm sure this is being repetitive to people listening out there, and I apologize for that, but so if we were approved, your plan would allow for us to bring 6th grade and I'm hearing seniors back on the 26th, if our regional support team,
correct.
okay?
Would that technically be the first then? Because the 26th is a Wednesday.
Well, it's whatever that, I could be wrong in the date. It's that Monday, what's the first day?
But
Of the
Tuesday the
semester.
27th.
25th is that workshop, teacher prep, and then
Yeah.
26th is Tuesday.
Yeah, 26th.
That's the end of the quarter then?
Yeah.
Next month.
Yeah, 25th is that work day.
Dr. Carlson,
Could we,
go ahead, Jordan.
could we maybe consider board approval
coming back in on those bases, subject to the team support, and if there's items that need to be addressed, perhaps we could authorize the administration and our board chair to work through those.
So absolutely, Ms. Maloney, I would support that. I just drafted, and I don't have it in front of me, but, to approve a plan to move grade 6 to in-person learning by the earliest date possible, as supported with the regional support team, based on what we've presented. And so, as soon as possible, as we can get that in place, and Mr. Buns, we've worked with the team, the 6th grade team, and those involved, and so we feel it just would be a matter of preparing the families, and which we're hoping that wouldn't require a lot of advance notice, but we've kind of operated under that week notice and see how that would play out. So, as far as the seniors, that'd be fine if you wanted to. So we fully support moving forward, but I
need to.
We will. We're going down that path administratively, and as long as we follow the hybrid protocol, we just didn't feel. We felt we could just do that. But if the board would like to do that, that'd be fine too.
I think we should incorporate that senior group with that motion, and I thank you, Joanne, for your well thought out idea there on that motion. But if we incorporate that, so we give back to allowing parents, of course, I was going to interrupt you and say I don't believe there to be one parent out here that would say we're moving too fast on bringing students back. I believe they would be very supportive. And again, just to make light of that, in continuation, and again, some of the concerns I faced with board members here is we meet once a month, and obviously we will call a special meeting whenever we feel there's a reason for it, because this is very important stuff we're talking about here. But again, so let's picture 6th and seniors coming back to 26. This continues back on a process of what we could potentially, and I know it's tough to predict the future, but that leaves us how many grades? The 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th? 5. Can we get that next time frame? And again, I know the pressure on administration, but similar to what elementary had a couple weeks down the road, can we expect to bring 3 of those 5 and then have a target date if numbers continue? And I don't want to push this. We'll take what we can get here tonight and we'll work from there. But I can just see parents and students out there saying, shoot, I'm in 8th grade. When do I have to hold my breath till?
So is there,
And again, just to give some type of a feeler without making promises.
can I ask, so now let's say this was in 3 phases then. So now you have your first phase. Do you have a second phase figured out? Like what grades would be most pertinent next, or what do you think of that?
We've talked about it, but we haven't named it. We've struggled with that because then you are.
It gets kind of tough to choose at that
correct.
It's right, and so this is where you're going to get into different, and there's going to be pluses and minuses no matter what. But some might say, continue with the. We've started with the youngest of learners, but the state gave us the flexibility to do that, and we're not going to lose sight of that. That's one of the differences, but having said that, I think that one school thought would be continue on completing the middle school,
Correct.
and so on, but nothing final yet on that.
Mr. Schoenrock.
Dr. Carlson, I know you've told us about the regional support team, and if you could refresh my memory on who is on that. And the second part of that question is, do you submit a plan to them, and do they issue approval or denial, or do they issue recommendations to follow?
Yeah, well, it's a good, fair question, one that we've dealt with, and the rest of the board knows for this whole time. the representation is, the majority of that, it's a 4-member team, and majority is made up of representatives from Minnesota Department of Health. And we do invite also some county public health representation too as part of that, but officially it's majority. The coordinator of that team is within the South Central Service Cooperative, and who also serves as a liaison with communication with the Department of Ed. But I would say regional support teams are primarily representing and speaking for the Department of Health.
So do they have approval and denial?
And this is where, speaking for Department of Health, but also familiar with the Department of Ed's Safe Learning Plan, which is what we are to follow, they will make that recommendation. School boards can have the ultimate say, but any school board would have to then respond if you're not following the state safe plan guidance. So there's no, like, you're not turning in a form and then they stamp a big deny on it.
Mm-hmm.
But it's that conversation through our consultation. We talk about a lot of different data and metrics and issues within that team, and that discussion, and try to come out of what's the best thing to do. And so we look for them for that guidance. And they will say whether they're comfortable with it or not. And if they're not, then that's one thing that we have to, I've maintained, I'm not that public health expert. I will follow that guidance, I will advise, and like I have consistently been doing, advise the board per the guidance that we receive. So I don't know if that,
That answers my question very good. I guess then my question or my comment would be that I understand that the Department of Health is looking at this, in my opinion, with blinders on, strictly from a Department of Health standpoint. But I think as a school board, we need to look at not only the health side of it, we need to look at the rest of it, the social skills, the education that these students are getting. And that's a balancing act that we have to perform. And I guess that was my point of asking if they could support or deny, or approve or deny it, or if it was a recommendation. I think that puts some weight back on our shoulders to maybe make the right decision, what we think is a right decision for the students of our district.
Yeah, I think that's where we're all in agreement again on this, in thinking back to this phase-in portion of the 5 grades remaining. I think we'll try and keep this broken down into what we've accomplished and where we're at right now, but I think if we come with the motion of the 6th and the seniors, then we're back to those 5 grades. And again, I don't mean to be throwing things out here that potentially are impossible, but one would say, can we bring all 5 of them back? Is it 2 weeks, 3 weeks down the road after we've got those seniors in 6th grade, flowing into the system on that 4-day a week? The other thing that I feel that we need to consider before the year is up here is the Wednesday situation. Currently, we're talking about 4-day in-person learning here, and I intend to bring this back before the board before the season is over on how we handle that Wednesday instruction in person once it is safe again to have these students in here. I know there are mandates that remain and will remain from the state on addressing distance learning perhaps in the afternoon, but we still have that to address and get back in person. So there are several steps to get this back into what I I feel should be our expectation of the board. But, you know, without tying the hands to the administration here, I don't know where those expectations should be at what's a realistic goal. And I don't know that we can go out and put a motion together to say that we'll be back in by the 7th of February, all in. I think that's probably dangerous. We'll take what we can get here tonight with the seniors and the 6th graders, but I think we need to discuss what that could realistically look like instead of leaving those people hang out there of, did they mean February or did they mean April? You know, and some things will adjust that. But.
We've all received enough phone calls and emails.
Of course, right. And the unknown is the frustrating
Right.
part, and I feel for the unknown, but yet we can't tell them anything we don't know either, and I appreciate the administration, you know, respecting that.
I have well, I don't know if you call it a suggestion, but an offer, and I don't know, we're probably not, well, okay, I'm not in a position today to probably come with a ramrod schedule, and we haven't even started yet, maybe,
Right.
But yet I also feel like waiting a month for the next decision is too far out.
Exactly.
I kind of feel like if we can get the senior and 6th grade thing going here, and I appreciate the fact you can do it so quick.
Right.
I appreciate that because that's pretty quick. But then I almost feel like we should meet again in 2 weeks.
We have a January 25th budget work session.
Right,
And we
but I don't know, is that just
that's the
everybody?
entire board.
Well, that's,
Again, we're not back, those people aren't back by then yet either, so I don't want to.
but if you did 2 weeks, they'd have a week experience with what was happening and maybe we'd know a little more about immunizations.
Right.
But I think a month is too far out.
I agree.
To wait for next, if that was the decision.
Correct.
Well, at that point,
I have a question. So
Please,
is it
Ms.
accurate to say that the 66% was only for the seniors, right?
Correct. That was only given to the seniors.
Distant learners.
Yeah.
Distant learners and.
So
No, that was
No.
the entire
class.
senior
Okay,
we
class.
don't know. You know, and I don't think it's fair to assume that the 8th grade class would respond to that low of a percentage. We'll have to do some more surveying if we're thinking that we can go down this path.
Dave, do you know, I know this is, but do you know a ballpark figure of what percentage of the kids are distance learners?
Oh, the last one we had was it 20?
It was in the 20-some%.
Five.
we had a 23%, but I don't know as of today.
Okay.
Yeah,
And
I would guess right around that 25.
Maybe it went up, some people are opting to do,
in the past week, it could have been.
Yeah, there's been a lot of shuffling now.
so are you guys trying to say then that you kind of like to see a plan to phase it in? Is that what you're saying? Like phase 1 is 6th and 12th, and then what would phase 2 be, and phase 3 in a perfect, I mean, even with dates and things, even if they didn't come to be, that would be our plan, a draft of what we'd like to see?
Well, and I feel where we're at right now in this meeting tonight is that we will entertain a motion to bring the 6th and the 12th grade back January 26th, barring any stamp of you can't do that. From there, I still think that the people deserve to know that, again, that there are hurdles to get across to bring these others back, but they don't have to tune out for a month and expect the same. I think we owe it to, like Travis said, to respond quicker if we can and bring another. Is it realistic? I guess I think this is a fair question to administration. Divide this back into 2 or in a perfect world, or these last 5 grades if we've got seniors in 6th grade back here? Or would it be easier to say wait an extra week and the 5 classes come back? We might be missing something as board members here of how that looks.
Well, I don't think it's just a simple thing, I guess, is it?
Yeah.
There's a lot of.
Right. Just in talking to one of my colleagues, that they're about to head in a full throttle
Okay.
scenario. It was the regional support team, when the numbers were, I think they were right around the 30s, which would put you normally in the hybrid,
Sure.
was kind of, it was that, and then there wasn't really anything, any COVID cases that were necessarily created or caused within the environment. There was some outside stuff, but that was the information that I got today from one of my colleagues.
Yeah, there are variables involved. Just because you're seeing another district doing something doesn't mean that we can just follow. If that's the case, we could have been doing that much earlier when districts were moving to distance learning and we didn't follow. So there's a safe learning plan in place, and
I respect that we don't have to follow other districts, but I do respect also that it's frustrating to people of how are they doing it. Back to Lauren asking that question of, where's the meat on calling the shots here, and I think some of that gets, and of course administration is supposed to follow recommendation.
Mr. Schultz, it would be the school board and all of us.
Right.
And if the decision is not to follow the state plan, that'll have to be
On the shoulders.
that'll have to be decided by this group,
Right.
you. And so we will continue to try to do our best to advise and guide you. And up to this point, it's kind of that balancing act. As you said, we're here, we want to make sure we're doing everything we can to get our students every opportunity. We need our people who are responsible for making that happen, as in our staff, to be able to be here and do it safely as well. And so we want to make sure we're doing everything we can to support our staff as well with that effort.
Rick, you mentioned the Wednesday thing. Is there any, have we thought any more about bringing the elementary back on Wednesdays? Has there been any discussion on that?
Yes, there's been discussion on that.
And again, I would hope that would come from administration in the leading of the building too, I think, with the people that are there every day, and again, without putting that weight specifically on Mr. Anderson, but when the time is right and it's comfortable for that, the priority is in-person
Every
instruction and recoup some of this lost in-person timing, and I think that will fix a lot of our education issues that we're having.
Terry, I was kind of under the understanding, or I guess what was going on in my head was, let's let them get rolling a little bit.
Right.
And kind of get their feet under them, and then like Mr. Schultz mentioned earlier tonight, the board is paying attention to that, and we might want to
I just wondered if there was,
revisit that, but
I just wondered if there was
yeah.
talk
But
about that.
that's what was going on in my little head anyway, was get them rolling good, and that.
And again, I think that the elementary seems to be a few steps in front of the secondary just because the guidance came from the state, and that was the priority because of the younger learners and stuff. But a systematic repeat of the elementary, it seems like, knock on wood, we could have an outbreak tomorrow, but it seems like it's relatively successful. It's been brought back. If we can follow that same path here at the secondary, but I just don't want to lose track of it as a board, that with the assumption that Wednesday is going to continue. I think that's going to be our grand finale of bringing them back to instruction learning. So yeah, part of the equation. But well, would it be a sense of accomplishment if I could call for a motion to approve administration to bring 6th grade and the seniors back on the 26th as the administration has presented here tonight? Barring any,
Mr. Schulte, yeah, and I had not mentioned the 26th, but
okay, I think
I
Mr.
just
Bunn
said
was.
as soon as possible,
Okay.
especially with grade 6. 'cause
Okay.
We would be waiting for, but we're as anxious as anybody.
Sure.
We're not gonna delay this,
Mhm.
but you know, whether you say no earlier than January 26th, something that just doesn't pin us down
Okay,
to the 26th, because
sure,
especially grade 6,
sure.
I'm feeling more confident that we have more control over getting our seniors and that plan going than right now grade 6. We sent the proposal earlier today. I'll be following up tomorrow to give more of a timeline. And so anyway, I don't
No,
know.
I
that might
appreciate
change,
that,
but-
and again, I thought I was kind of under the impression that that's kind of our, and it no doubt is our target date, but,
Well, what Joanne said was I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Joanne, you said a motion to entertain the plan to bring back 6th grade ASAP based on regional support team approval. And then somebody else mentioned seniors as well. So are we going to have both those
Yeah.
things in the motion? 6th
That's-
grade and
yes.
seniors? Okay.
well, and again, we create the motion the way we want to here.
Right.
But what I'm hearing from administration is we think we can handle seniors. We don't think there's a hurdle that unless something jumps out at us. And the 6th grade, we're waiting on this regional support approval of the plan presented, and that would all equate to coming back to 26 with those 2 classes. So I think if we get that in the books here and get that approved, then we can kind of wrap up on this portion of what we see and maybe ask for an update at the
Do we
budget
need
work
to add
session.
in the tail end of that, like Joanne mentioned, do we need to give the superintendent and the board chair permission to
Work
did
through
that
the
once
hurdles?
before?
That might be good if there are
Sure.
some things some hiccups that happen that,
You have to adjust
you
them.
know, that has to adjust the date, but, yeah, I don't see, you know, the 26th, the caution there, especially with 6th grade with all that. I just don't want to give families or staff and kids or students the impression that
What?
it will be on the 26th.
Sure.
I don't think we can do that.
What, without knowing the process, obviously, what if they come back and say that they need a couple weeks to get to it?
And the regional support.
Yeah. I mean, is that even possible?
So maybe that's one of those scenarios where, depending on your motion, you know, how do we,
Yeah, that's what I'm wondering,
How-
because
what's the
I don't
latitude?
think we want
what's
to
the
wait.
latitude?
Right.
If they have some lag that they're just not able to get to all those requests, I don't know that we want to wait 2-3 weeks either.
Correct.
I think unless they want to take the keys and shut the lights off, let's just let her rip.
Again, as we came to you with a lot of work and preparation tonight, I strongly feel that we have put together a proposal that, with a grade 6, that's consistent with what the expectations have been of K-5. Not in the same building, but administratively, and working with our 6th grade staff and so on. And so there will be, so I'm optimistic, but yeah,
Give us
Mr.
some.
Smith, your question is valid. I have no idea what their caseload is right now and to process, but I will be finding out more tomorrow.
Ms. Maloney, would you care to put that motion together because I think you did the most work on that.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna give it a whirl. So I'd like to move that, we bring back the, 6th grade class, as soon as possible, and, continue to work with the team, but, we'll provide the chair and the superintendent with the authority to work through any hurdles provided or to just decide to move forward. And then as to the seniors, we would bring them back as soon as possible, just under the current hybrid plan that's in place. in the secondary school building overall.
Is there a second to that?
I'll second.
And if you ask me to repeat that, but here I will take it. Motion has been made by Ms. Maloney, seconded by Mr. Routh, to bring back 6th grade as soon as possible, authorizing the board chair and the superintendent to work through any adjustments needed to comply, and bringing the seniors back for in-person as soon as possible. Is there any further discussion? And feel free to adjust that as you seem fit here.
The only question I would have is would we want to include the other grades? Because we're talking about as soon as possible. Do we need to have, I guess my thought would be to add an amendment to that to bring back the other grades as soon as possible also, so that we don't have to have another meeting. If we find out we can bring them back next week, the superintendent and board chairman can authorize that, because that's our goal.
And if we can keep this a little bit cleaner, let's stay focused on this particular motion, and then we can maybe entertain one following this too on those specific. But I'd really like to get the 6th and the seniors as that motion was presented if we could, and then we'll follow up on that balance of the five.
And
Joanne?
my motion actually did include the idea that, you know, if the board chair and the superintendent want to move forward despite not working out every detail as to the 6th grade team, that they have the authority to do that.
Appreciate that. Any further discussion on that particular motion? Ms. Engel, I would ask you for a roll call vote, please.
Okay, Terry Engel, aye. Joanne Maloney,
Aye.
Rich Mueller,
Aye.
Travis Rao,
Aye.
Dan Schmidt,
Aye.
Lauren Schoenrock,
Aye.
Rick Schultz.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you again for getting through that portion. The remaining 5 classes that exist beyond this, again, I think we're all under the impression of the, I'll use the term urgency to get them back. I'll give Dr. Carlson, Mr. Bunn an opportunity to visit this through as to, I think you have the feeling that the board is supportive of getting these back. Do you see anything you need from us in that? Back to Mr. Schoenrock's point, authority to bring this back, or same type of a deal? Can some surveys get out as far as getting numbers of what that would look like coming back, or give you an opportunity to visit that through a little bit here?
Well, the survey from the seniors, that would be if Mr. Bunn and staff feel that they can work towards something similar that would maintain the hybrid protocol. That's one issue. If it's following, if it's going beyond and trying to fit an in-person plan within a hybrid model per the Safe Learning Plan, I mean, that conversation we had with, it already has been had a week ago with our regional support team, and there were a lot of concerns and questions and so on. So we're continually working on that. I don't want anybody to think that we're not trying to address that. It's if the board wants to go on in a direction not following these state orders, you know, the executive orders and the Safe Learning Plan, you know, we can go in that direction. It won't be something that will be recommended, but we can go in and have that conversation and take that action. You know, ultimately, every school district's Board of Education can make that decision, but I'm kind of rambling, Mr. Schultz. I'm
No,
sorry.
no, and I appreciate
I
that.
just-
It's valid.
I don't know
It's
where to
valid.
go, I don't know where to go with that.
Sure.
As we sit here tonight, other than and we'll keep revisiting with our public health folks, with the Department of Ed, to keep pushing to see, because again, as I said earlier, it's not just the student learning component involved. We need all our people full in and to do it as well. And so,
Back to your point, Mr. Schoenrock, on the, does it give the board any satisfaction here from a standpoint if we do have an authorization as superintendent and chair to make the move to bring another grade level back, or, I mean, from 1 to 5 grades back, or isn't there any
I'm okay.
value?
It's up, I guess I would say it's your comfort level. I'm more than happy to come in. I'm
Right.
not going to Jamaica anytime
I think
soon,
that's,
so, I mean,
I think that's
if you're more
probably the
comfortable,
right, but
I think the whole board's willing to convene if
Sure.
we need to in short
if
order.
we're comfortable with that, let's maybe leave it at that. I guess the only thing I would leave the administration with is we want to devote our January 25th meeting to budget, and I don't want to sway off from that. We've spent a lot of time on this again tonight, but very important. But could we perhaps have an update of at least where we're at, and potentially a potential timeline there of these last 5 classes too, back into, if it's not a long ways off, but that will be a subject. And again, that will be an opportunity for the board to be
we
back.
can always do something. It'll be just
Relatively,
There's a lot to
Maybe if it was just if you put it down to like middle school, if we started with that, since you started with the 6th grade, and it's like, how would you roll out just the middle school portion instead of all 5?
Right.
And then later on another phase, so it doesn't seem,
Well, I think you could get parents on board with it if they could at least see the picture too.
so that's just my only thing, because it's talking about all 5 grade levels at
Right.
once. Maybe it was just middle school, because then you just have to worry about middle school schedules and, that type of thing, so. I don't know.
Well, it sounds to me we're comfortable with the motions and the action that is taken on those for now, and we will continue down that process of getting kids back in the classroom. So I appreciate everyone's time and time spent on this subject. A lot of ground covered and a very sensitive subject, but we will move on. Thank you all for that thorough discussion. The activities update, Dr. Carlson? please?
Just real quick, there is, Community Ed continues to work on starting classes and practices, including, for example, youth basketball, and we just had a conversation today, I think Ms. Whiteside is continuing working on other things such as our early childhood family education program. And so I think with those organizations, preparedness plans have been reviewed, and I have every indication that things are moving forward. Should I move right? So
Please.
That's just an update. Facility use, similar, we're working with some community organizations to, for example, youth wrestling and some others to see with those preparedness plans and see how comfortable, but I think things are positive and continue moving forward of making some of that happen. I just don't have a specific timeline for you tonight on some of that. So we continue to make progress in those areas. That's it for those updates.
All right, thank you. We have the 21-22 school year calendar. I think we're expecting approval here tonight, correct?
Right, this was presented to you December 21. There's been no changes, and so we thought about putting it under the consent agenda, but decided to keep it out. If you have any questions, be happy to answer. Otherwise, be looking for a motion to approve the 2021-2022 school year calendar.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Schmidt, seconded by Mr. Ralph to approve the 21-22 school year calendar as presented. Is there any discussion? Ms. Engel, please.
Terry Engel, aye. Joanne Maloney,
Aye.
Rich Mueller,
Aye.
Travis Ralph,
Aye.
Dan Schmidt,
Aye.
Lauren Schoenrock,
Aye.
Rick Schultz.
Aye. Motion carries. The pay equity implementation report. Dr. Carlson, please.
You're asked to approve this tonight, this report. It's approved every 3 years. The board last approved it in 2018. Pay equity is designed to address the problem of a wage structure in which there is one pay pattern for jobs performed actually mostly by men, and another pay pattern for jobs performed mostly by women. Pay equity primarily affects pay structure, not pay level or pay method. An employer can still have a pay level that is different than other employers. The school district can still pay more, for example, to recognize individuals' seniority and performance. So one way to do this is to establish salary ranges for each job class and reward employees for seniority, performance, or both by moving them through the salary range. So the concept of pay equity includes compensation programs having 3 parts, including pay level, pay structure, and pay method. So I'm happy to try to answer questions to this. Again, we thought since this is approved every 3 years, it probably wasn't as routine to put it on the consent agenda. So we decided to ask you to take action on this separately. So if there are no questions, a motion would be simply to approve the pay equity implementation report as presented.
I'll make that motion to approve the pay equity implementation report as given.
I'll second.
Motion made by Mr. Mueller, seconded by Mr. Schoenrock to approve the pay equity implementation report as presented. Is there any further discussion? Ms. Engel, please.
Terry Engel, aye. Joanne Maloney,
Aye.
Rich Mueller,
Aye.
Travis Ralph,
Aye.
Dan Schmidt,
Aye.
Lauren Schoenrock,
Aye.
Rick Schultz.
Aye. A resolution to extend deadline for leaves granted by the Families First Coronavirus Recovery Act. Dr. Carlson, please.
So yeah, you're asked to consider extending the requirement to provide up to 80 hours of paid emergency sick leave and up to 12 weeks of partially paid expanded family and medical leave. Through all of this was the federal program that actually goes back to last April, and it ended December 31. We reached out to the School Board Association. They had already had multiple requests by school districts to take this on, and the school district takes the responsibility and the burden on to extend the deadline for those employees. And so tonight, we're recommending that the district extends this through March 31, which means approving the resolution would result in the qualifying reasons for this act leave do not change. The caps or the maximum on the amount of leave do not change. So I want to say this doesn't mean that anybody's going to get more hours now. It's simply moving the December 31 deadline another 3 months. So employees that had already accessed part or all of their 80 hours under these very specific criteria, they're not going to get more hours. It's simply extending that those who haven't have 3 more months in order to access those if they qualify under the specific criteria. So we would be adding, though, we would be adding our requirement that the employee must first, though, we have a short-term telework process in place. And this isn't really a non-issue because most will want to, if they can, try to work remotely short-term, if they can. And so, but we are gonna ask them, and then if that's denied with their supervisor, then they can apply for these hours. Okay, so you have this resolution in front of you, and it simply would be just, I guess, a motion to approve the resolution, unless you have questions.
I make a motion to approve the resolution.
I'll second.
Motion made by Ms. Engel, seconded by Mr. Schoenrock to approve the resolution to extend deadline for leaves granted by the Families First Coronavirus Recovery Act. Is there any further discussion? Ms. Engel, please.
Terry Engel, aye. Joanne Maloney,
Aye.
Rich Mueller,
Aye.
Travis Rao,
Aye.
Dan Schmidt,
Aye.
Lauren Schoenrock,
Aye.
Rick Schultz.
Aye. Motion carries. I'm saddened to address the next item of business here, but we have received a resignation from our superintendent, Dr. Dale Carlson, and before he introduces that, I would just like to take a moment to tell him my appreciation for his sincerity and his dedication to our district. For the last 6 years, I've always appreciated the way he's approached his job here at NRHEG, and we thank him for his time here. So with that, I'll turn it over to Dr. Carlson, please.
You have my letter, and just appreciate the board's support and trust throughout this, what's been just a wonderful experience. And so I'm not going anywhere right now, so we have a lot of work yet to do, but you have my letter, and unless you have any questions about it, and I'll take advantage of some other opportunities to continue to extend my appreciation for this district, our communities, and this Board of Education, the Board of Education that I've had the honor and privilege to work so closely alongside with. And thank you for just that support. It has meant a lot.
Is there a motion to approve, please?
I'll make a motion to approve the resignation as presented.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Rouse, seconded by Mr. Schmidt to approve the superintendent's resignation as presented with much gratitude. Any further discussion?
I would like to just say one thing. If he decides that this is actual retirement and not just a resignation, I think we should invite him back to the district and we'll recognize him as a retiree.
Very valid point. We're not done with them yet, Rich, is the way. We'll leave that, and I don't know if that's comforting to Dr. Carlson or if that's concerning, so we'll let him decide that, but again, very valid point. And I'll give other board members an opportunity to talk here too if they care to. Very serious subject here. Again, we'll have our opportunity to celebrate this along the way, so thank you for now, Dr. Carlson, and we apologize for the stress level of all school employees through this last, we wish we were in better times here, so. We'll go on to the vote of that. Ms. Engel, please.
Terry Engel, aye. Joanne Maloney,
Aye.
Rich Mueller,
Aye.
Travis Rao,
Aye.
Dan Schmidt,
Aye.
Lauren Schoenrock,
Aye.
Rick Schultz.
Aye. Motion carries. With that item of business, it puts burden, and I shouldn't call it a burden, we are charged as a school board to move forward and employ a superintendent in the district. In visiting with Dr. Carlson, I have reached out to a couple search services that I believe have a good reputation of of working through this process and helping the board find the right person to fill that position. So with that, I will have Dr. Carlson introduce the first the MSBA here is
Thank
going
you.
to join us.
Yes,
Go ahead,
thank
Dr.
you.
Carlson.
And I'd like to introduce Barb Dorn, and I just want to make sure, Barb, there you are. Do you hear us okay?
Absolutely, thank you.
Okay. Well, Barb, thank you so much for giving your time and your flexibility tonight on the start time here. I think the way this is set up, I'm going to try to help Ms. Dorn about kind of bring up any documents that she has provided the board in your board packet that she may want to reference, or if the board has questions. But otherwise, Barb, I'll let you start, and thank you again. And I will bring up, I think there's 3 different documents that we have that you had included or forwarded to us. So if you want to just, at any time, let me know which one you might want me to bring up and reference.
Okay, that sounds good. Thank you so much, Dr. Carlson, and congratulations on whatever is next in your journey. You put in an awful lot of work there, and everyone at MSBA would join me in congratulating you on whatever lies ahead. So thank you for that. I think what I'd like to do first, and again, thank you to the board for having me here. I am Barb Dorn with MSBA. I think I'd like to review the proposal very briefly and just highlight some things within that proposal. I know that you have had an opportunity to see it, so I don't want to take too long going over things that you have already digested, but I do want to highlight just a couple of things for your information tonight. I'm anticipating I'll spend perhaps about 10 minutes highlighting the proposal, as well as another minute or 2 on each of the other documents, and then I would like to open it up for any questions. If there is opportunity for you to ask about things in the proposal, I'm more than happy to stay as long as you need to answer some of those questions. So the very first thing I want to do is tell you a story, and it is a story of editing. And I want to thank Terry for bringing something to my attention today. During the flurry of search season, which we are in the midst right now of, where everything is happening at once. Searches are launching, searches are wrapping up, proposals are being written, workshops are occurring. When we write proposals, very often we do the find and replace feature within Publisher. So if anyone uses Publisher, you know that it's fairly easy to find, like on the cover of your page, in a proposal, an existing proposal, and replace it with another. So I did that for the NRHEG proposal, as I always do. And the proposal, which I had finished about an hour before yours, was for Lackawanna Valley School District. So I just want to point out that when you get to any of the resumes in the back of the proposal for our service providers, you may notice that Renee Tostison shows that rather than being a superintendent principal in Lackawanna Valley Schools, she was holding those positions in NRHEG schools. So that was most definitely an editing error. As you know, Renee Tostison did not work in your district, and everything in her resume that may say so should say Lackawanna Valley. So learned a lesson about Publisher, and I apologize for that, and thank you, Terry, for bringing that to my attention. It's what happens during search season, but I wanted to clarify that so you didn't think I was misrepresenting our service provider's experience. All right, so I think I'd like to start on page 2, where it talks about the planning meeting. Obviously, there is a lot involved in a superintendent search, and the key to success for every search really, truly is planning. That's the foundation for everything that comes thereafter. So in sum, you will need to identify the hiring criteria that you want for your next superintendent. Every district is unique, and every district is looking for something a little different in the next leader of their district. So we would help you define what that is, and you would use that as a yardstick to measure not only the applications when they come in, but also the interview questions you choose to ask in round 1 or round 2. Those hiring criteria will be foundational to everything that comes afterwards. You also want to identify a timeline right away. Superintendent searches used to take about 3 to 6 months. That has changed with the advent of technology and the fierce competition out there for leadership. It now averages between 3 and 4.5 months per search. So
So you'll want to, the first planning meeting, sit down and identify exactly when you are doing what. And when you have those things outlined, then the expectations for what comes next are very, very clear. And everyone has everything on their calendar from beginning to end. The vacancy brochure is going to be a key part of the search for any district in Minnesota. You want to list not only the opportunity, but you want to highlight the things that are very special about your district. What the points of pride are, what the community is like, what things would make an applicant interested to throw their hat in the ring for the opportunity at your district. So the vacancy brochure is a nice marketing piece. We help you identify how to position your opportunity in the marketplace because there will be some other opportunities folks are looking at. So explaining that and clarifying that right up front in the brochure is going to be key to moving on. And finally, you'll talk about stakeholder input. Stakeholders obviously are a very important part of the superintendent search process. You as the board are the only hiring authority. So input from stakeholders is phenomenal, it's important, it's necessary, but semantics are important, and you want to be careful that stakeholders are not given the impression that they have authority to make the hiring decisions. So the input is important. You can bring it in through an online survey of qualifications. You could conduct listening sessions or focus groups with different stakeholder groups in the community. Admittedly, that's very difficult in the pandemic. So we have been doing our listening sessions online in a survey, even in conjunction with the qualification survey. And it's been interesting. We have seen our response rate to listening sessions absolutely skyrocket. I think the opportunity to share your thoughts in an anonymous forum 24/7 versus in a focus group where everyone knows what you say or who says what has been one of the silver linings to the pandemic. We've been able to increase stakeholder input through doing things differently when the landscape changed. So that's the planning meeting, and that's a lot to do up front. But if you get your ducks in a row, it will ensure that the superintendent search from that point forward runs smoothly. If we could go to the next page, page 3, please. There's a lot in here as well. I'm not going to go through how we advertise and recruit, but obviously it goes on MSBA's site, MASA's site, and EdPost. The second to last paragraph, I think, is something that makes MSBA's searches different. We regularly send emails out to all of these folks, superintendents, assistant soups, service co-op directors, charter school directors, principals, and assistant principals across the state, highlighting the opportunities available through MSBA's search services. Our marketing, I think, is second to none. People will hear about the position, they'll be reminded about the position, and that is sent through our CRM database because all of those folks are in the database for MSBA. So if you looked at this already, you're familiar with how we get the word out, and I think this is, again, one of our greatest strengths. On to the next page, page 4. I want to talk briefly about interview training and preparation. You really need to prepare for these interviews. If you haven't been through a superintendent search process before, you may be unfamiliar with some of the guidelines, not just best practices, which are good ideas to ensure that the process is fair and equitable, but the state statutes that are involved in a search process. You really, as board members, have to tread a very thin tightrope between the open meeting law requirements and the Data Practices Act requirements. So one of the things we pride ourselves on is, as a school board association that works with school boards every single day, is helping you understand how you conduct a search in adherence with open meeting law. Everything has to be done transparently and in the open, and you have to balance it with the Data Practices Act, which requires that your applicants, their names, or any identifying information are not made public unless they are named finalists. So we put a great deal of stock in our interview training to ensure that board members are comfortable with those statutes, that they stay within the bounds of what is legal and acceptable, as well as what truly are best practices to be able to interview the top candidates and assure that they are interested in the position as well as you being interested in them. All right, next page, page 5, please. All right, screening the applicants and selecting the finalists. One thing to keep in mind is that you as board members have the right to see every single application for your position. All right, so we will, our service providers whose resumes are in that proposal, we will work with them to identify who we feel are the top 6 or so candidates that fit your hiring criteria. Based on what you've told us, you want in a superintendent, what you need in a superintendent, what your parameters are. We will vet the applicant pool and come up with the 6 that we feel are the strongest for you. And then we vet deeper in terms of doing pre-interviews with those 6 people. We make reference check calls. We dig deeper into each of them and then suggest to you that from our recommendation, we say these are the best folks to interview. You, however, have seen every application. And there may be things that appeal to you in some of the candidates that you have looked at. Now here again, it goes to data practices. You cannot allow anyone to see the applications that are in the running for your position of superintendent. Whether it's an internal candidate or an external candidate, they must be treated exactly the same. Now, if you have candidates, whether they're neighboring districts or someone in the district already, telling folks that they have thrown their hat in the ring and that they're hoping to be selected for an interview, you as board members cannot confirm or deny that. That is private data. So when you're screening finalists, you can't do it at your kitchen table with people potentially looking over your shoulders. You need to be careful how and when you review those applications, but you do have the right as the board to see all of them. All right, next slide, please. Page 6, toward the bottom of this, you'll see the follow-up. We have found that one of the best services we use is the post-hiring workshop. So districts who've hired a new superintendent, everything's good, it's sunshine and roses, you've got the contract signed, everyone's excited, and July 1st, the new superintendent starts. That's wonderful, but it is not the time to rest. That first year of a superintendent's experience at your district is crucial to succeeding in the long term. So we'll come in and facilitate a workshop at no cost with your board and your superintendent to clarify expectations for that first year. What are some goals that you want your superintendent to work toward over the course of that year? What expectations do you have of them? You don't want to come to the end of the first year and looking back doing an evaluation or performance evaluation. You don't want to look back and say, well, I really wanted you to accomplish this and you didn't do it. Well, a superintendent is going to look at you and say, I didn't know you wanted me to accomplish that specifically, because the scope of the job of the superintendent is enormous. So through the post-hiring workshop, we'll help the board team come to conclusions on what is the best way to evaluate after 1 year's time, how did that first year go? So again, that is part of the package, no cost for that, but setting expectations and clarifying who is going to be doing what and when, and helping the board support the superintendent that first year is very, very important. All right, let's go to page 7. Thank you, Dr. Carlson, for doing this for me. I appreciate it.
Barb, you said 11?
7.
Or
7.
I mean, sorry.
Right
7.
there.
Thank you.
Yep. I'm not going to go through this because this is a long list of what's included in a full search for MSBA. I just wanted to point this out because another document, which we'll take a quick look at, outlines our limited searches. And all of the services in a full proposal are listed here. And then I'll come back to this when we talk about the option for limited searches for MSBA. So I just want to show you very quickly that we do have full services and limited, but I'm not going to go through those. All right, and finally, if you could go to page 8.
Oh, sorry.
Yes.
This was acting up earlier tonight. Hold on here.
Oh, all right.
Ah,
There, well, somewhere in there.
it's scrolling on its own here.
You know what? Go to the timeline on page 10. We're good enough. And then we'll call it a day on the proposal. Otherwise, if you have the proposal in front of you, I've suggested a timeline that is just under 3 months for your search. That can easily be done. One of the things you want to think about is whether or not you're interested in the MSBA workshop. Because as it mentions in the fee for service here, the workshop is included in a limiter or full search if you are interested. And in the interest of time, depending upon what else is on the agenda for the board, because you're pretty busy, you have an awful lot going on, if you're interested in a workshop, we would slot that into the very first activity, probably in late January. We could still get that in and then roll right into a planning meeting. If you don't feel there's time to conduct the workshop, you could dive right into the planning meeting. And you are, again, as I mentioned, right in the full portions of executive search season. This is really it. Between now and April, it's extremely busy. And I've talked to some districts who have said they feel like they're behind. Some searches opened up last October, November, or December. They're just ahead of the game and they have the luxury of time to take five months to do a search. But right now is or sitting superintendents are offered a position in a different district, and so suddenly the board has an opening they need to fill. So right now is certainly plenty of time to conduct your search. You just need someone in place by July 1st. If you are given a choice, you want to be able to advertise your position before April 1st. That is, in our estimation, sort of a drop dead date, that if you post a position after April 1st, you're not going to get necessarily a very deep pool of candidates. Most people have their contracts signed to be effective July 1st. So by the time April gets here, April and May, we sometimes assist school districts with interim superintendents instead and help them fill the gap for 1 year versus conducting an entire search. But you do have plenty of time, thanks to Dr. Carlson. You have been given plenty of notice that he's going to step down. So this is a tentative timeline, but you could certainly change it up in any way that fits the board. So with that, I'd like to close the proposal. Thanks, Dr. Carlson. And if you could open the limited search document that was in the packet there, we'll just real briefly touch on that. This is a super short document. Basically, the second page is identical to what you saw in the proposal, the 28-page proposal. If that's for $7,800. Now, we recognize that especially districts under 1,000 students in enrollment don't often have the funds to be able to conduct a full search, but they still want to work with MSBA. So we have created 2 levels of limited search, and that is what the next 2 pages illustrate. It's pretty easy to understand because you can see what is eliminated. For $4,500, for instance, there are no listening sessions that are conducted as part of the search. We are not at the interviews with you, even virtually, for round 1 or round 2 of the interviews. So that is your choice, if that's more affordable. And then we have sort of the bare bones search at $2,500. Smaller brochure, 1 page instead of 2, no listening sessions. I think that next page at $2,500 will show, if I'm doing it from memory, that there's no qualification survey. So depending upon the level of involvement you need from your stakeholders, there are districts of very small enrollment that choose the $2,500 limited search and still keep all of the other steps within the MSBA search. So I'll stop with that. And then the flyer, we don't have to open it up, but the workshop MSBA does fairly regularly for districts that are thinking of doing a search that really need the foundational knowledge. Whether you decide to hire MSBA or not for your search, that workshop can be a real good place to start. If there's board members who just aren't familiar enough with the process to feel like they can make a real informed decision about what's next. So that's included if you are interested. But if you would prefer working with another search firm, we are still happy to do these for MSBA members. The fee for that is then $975, which is credited toward the search fee if you retain MSBA. So I feel like I just did a lot of talking in 10 or 15 minutes. So I'm going to stop talking and open it up to see if you have any questions. I would be more than happy to answer those.
I see some thinking going on, Barb, so just be patient here. We'll give him some time.
Yep, absolutely. I hope I didn't go too quickly, but I know you've had a long agenda already, so I didn't want to go through line by line.
Appreciate it.
Sure.
What are you seeing for a typical candidate pool currently? You said you're in the middle of some searches currently. Can you give us some type of an idea of what we could potentially picture as a candidate pool for NRHEG?
Yeah, that is the million-dollar question. What we have seen, and again, we've had 1 search close, and we have 2 or 3 that are approaching closing in the next week or 2. Generally speaking, we're seeing fewer applicants than we have in past years. Not dramatically, but there seem to be fewer folks willing to stick their neck out and become a superintendent. I think this year has taken a toll on existing superintendents and exhausted. And I know that there are a lot of really great emerging leaders who perhaps have principal positions right now or folks within a district with a license. I think they are seeking some superintendent opportunities. By and large, though, city superintendents, at least in our experience, and we work primarily with small and mid-sized districts, it seems like there are fewer. Having said that, though, keep in mind that you only need one really good candidate in a pool of 10 or 15 is all you need. One really good candidate in a pool of 3 is all you need. So I wouldn't worry too much about quantity. I would focus on quality, and that is there. The candidates are quality that we're seeing.
Thank you.
Great question.
Barb, I've never been through this process before of hiring a superintendent, but could you give me a little bit of history about MSBA? How many searches do you do a year, and have you had it? What's your success rate? Has all the districts that you've searched for hired one of the candidates that you've presented, or just a little bit of history on the MSBA search team?
All right, great. Thank you. Great question. About 14 years ago, Sandy Gunlock, if any of you worked with Sandy while she was at MSBA, came here from working with the Illinois School Boards Association, and she did executive search for the Illinois school boards. And when she came back to Minnesota, she actually lived here and commuted to Illinois, she proposed the idea to the Minnesota School Boards Association of launching a search service. They saw it as a value add for districts, the value add, so they did begin about 14 years ago, Sandy on her own designed to build the process. In those years, she did probably 2 to 3 searches a year. A search, as you can imagine, is extremely complex and requires a lot of focus and attention by whomever is sort of directing and coordinating the activities. So she continued to build it, she continued to refine it. She found some service providers, retired school board members or superintendents or consultants who wanted to still work in the arena. So she was able to build the capacity for searches. So she got up to 10 to 12 searches a year while still not sacrificing the quality. Sandy knew that she wanted to retire in 2020, summer of 2020. So in July of 2019, I started in order to learn the process before she stepped down about a year later. By that time, MSBA was doing more than 20 searches a year, and that has held true. We did 20 the year before I started, then the next year they did 21, and last year we again did 21 searches. And that is due to the ability to expand and contract our staff capacity with our service providers whose resumes you've seen in the proposal. As for success, I'm glad that you defined what that looks like, because how you define success is different no matter what you ask. But you specifically said, have districts hired a candidate that we put forth? And I would have to say that the candidates in the pools that we put forth have been retained by all the boards that we have worked with. On occasion, the pool has not been strong enough where we've been comfortable saying, this is a great candidate, so we have on occasion recommended an interim instead. And in that case, we've been able to partner and find some folks to step in and lead the district for 1 year through a transition, and then conduct the search the next year. Our services come with the guarantee that if for any reason the search is unsuccessful, or within the first year the superintendent steps down or the board releases them, we will do another search for free. So I would have to say that our satisfaction rate is very, very high. But if you meant success to be something different, I'm happy to answer that as well. But I'm really proud of our track record, and I'd stake our reputation on it. So thanks for asking that question.
Thank you, Barb.
Anyone else?
There are private companies that offer this same service. Can you tell us what we could potentially see, or is that ours to find out on our own? What can MSBA offer us versus hiring a private company?
I'll tell you a little bit. First of all, there's some very good private search firms out there. They'll do a good job, because I think the world of superintendent search is small enough that if someone is not doing a good job, they don't stick around. Only quality search firms really stay in the mix. Pricey, I can't tell you if that's more or less. I've been surprised sometimes by how much some of those firms charge, and I've also been surprised by how reasonable it has seemed to us. I do know that they don't see see the search through the lens of school board leadership. Because the majority of folks doing superintendent search through private firms, the majority, not all by any means, majority are retired superintendents as well, or folks that were in the superintendency and stepped back to become a consultant. So their lens is typically through that of the superintendent, which is not a bad thing. MSBA partners with MASA in all aspects of board leadership. In particular, I work very closely with Deb Henton at the Superintendents Association, not just to identify candidates, but to help develop them and do some leadership development with those folks. So I would say the fact that the search firms that are not MSBA don't look through the lens of board leadership, which is all that we do. You know, that's 100% our business, is school board leadership. So that's one thing. I would say another thing is that MSBA does not ever recruit sitting superintendents for our openings. We don't see our role as that of a headhunter or a recruiter who needs to go out and tap people on shoulders or leverage our network of, you know, friends and acquaintances and colleagues to look at positions. We would not do that because when a superintendent is in a district, they're serving one of our members. MSBA members are all we do. So we would not go in and, I say poach, but that's not an appropriate word, recruit a superintendent from one of our members. I do know that an awful lot of sitting superintendents will hear about the opportunity. If you remember that email list I showed you earlier, we'll make sure they know about it. But we will not go recruit from a group of people that we feel are sort of a stable of applicants. We make the search open to everyone, and anyone who may be qualified is welcome to submit, and we'll take a good, hard look at every single person that applies for your job. So those are probably the two biggest differences that I would see. But again, good firms, good people. I think anyone operating in Minnesota, to my awareness right now anyway, would do a good job for you.
Thank you.
If I didn't answer that, let me know.
Oh, great. Appreciate it.
Okay. Anything else? I don't want to keep you online with me if you have no more questions.
Greatly appreciate your time, and thanks for joining us in such short notice. So.
No, that's all right. Thank you so much for considering us. Thank you also for your service on the school board. We know what kind of a year this has been. So keep your chins up, focus on what's best for the kids in your district, and you're going to be just fine. But I know it's been a hard work. So with that, I'm going to log off. I wish you well in your search, and if you have additional questions or comments, I'm sure that Dr. Carlson or Chairman Schultz could reach out to me, and I'd be happy to visit further. So have a good night, and I'm going to say goodbye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Goodbye.
All right, a lot of information there, but obviously we're aware of the School Board Association and the work they do. Again, as I had stated earlier, that we have another opportunity here of a service through the South Central Service Co-op. So, Dr. Carlson, can you connect us with?
I'm just waiting. I have notified them.
We're pushing her. Some people probably retired for the evening.
I've been back and forth with them, giving them an update on.
Okay. Yeah, and my potential timeline for them was off by quite some time, so I apologize for that too. This Mr. Waltman that was...
Yeah, so both, we're waiting for Ed Waltman, former superintendent in Mankato, and then also Harold Rennie, former superintendent in New Ulm. Okay, all right, hold on here. Mr. Waltman, are you with us?
I'm here.
Well, good evening.
Good evening to you.
Welcome. This is Dale Carlson speaking, and thank you so much for your flexibility This is always a little bit of an unknown of the pace of the meeting, but here we are, and I'm going to let Harold in here.
Harold is on.
All right. Well, listen, I've already kind of introduced you a little bit before you two joined us, and so I'll let you do any additional introductions you may want to, but you have the board here, and 5 are in person and 2 are remote this evening, and you're the last item on the agenda tonight. You're it. You're going to close it tonight. So I'm going to do my best to open the documents that you want to highlight and go through, and you'll just have to guide me through those, okay?
That sounds great. Thank you so much, and good evening, board members. It's a pleasure to be with you. We're going to try to be very respectful of your time. We know that you've had a long meeting tonight. The first item that I'd like you to open up is reason for contracting with the South Central Service Cooperative. That document. First of all, the South Central Service Cooperative is located in North Mankato, Minnesota. We serve approximately 50 public and non-public schools, as well as another 40 cities and counties in our region. Hopefully, many of you have been to some meetings at our particular building. Harold Remy and I are called Shared Services Consultants. We are pleased to be able to work with all of our school districts and helping them help them with their school operations. One of the duties that we do have is to provide search services for superintendents. And that document that I had you open, and hopefully the members see, I want to just quickly review that with you. First of all, experienced facilitators. Both Harold and I have over 40 years of experience of working in southern Minnesota. Harold was superintendent in Trimont, Minnesota, Tracy, Minnesota, and spent many years as superintendent in New Ulm, Minnesota. I was an administrator in the Mankato School District for 35 years, the last 12 years as a superintendent. We only work in this region. I think we understand the cultures. We want all of our school districts to succeed as much as possible and be as much help to them as possible. The next item on that list is recruiting and screening. Harold and I are both still actively involved with the State Superintendents Association. We both serve on their foundation board. We attend their meetings. As liaisons to our regional superintendents, I think Dale can tell you that we regularly attend all of the superintendent meetings. One of our duties is to put on workshops like bringing Tom Milcher down for our school business managers and superintendents for the legislative workshop, the tax levy workshop. He, of course, is retired and been replaced, but we're still doing those workshops. We do have a lot of contacts because we also attend our local superintendent meetings as well. But the MESA is our big framework, and we're both very active in that and make a lot of contacts with people in that way. Item number 3 is process detail of our search. I think our search service probably involves the most people of any search option that you might have. We also, I know, first of all, I know you interviewed MSB. They're partners of ours. They do a great job as well. But I think we involve more people than any other search program because we do the online survey where we ask questions like what's working well in your district, what needs to be done, what are the attributes of the new superintendent. All your citizens, your staff, students, and can participate with that survey. We use that to create a profile of attributes, which becomes a scorecard that we work with the board in determining who's the best candidate, the best fit for your particular school district. In addition to that, how we involve people is in the semifinal interviews. We recommend that you have a community staff committee that also interviews the candidates. The board interviews candidates separately from that committee. That committee is usually made up of about 13 people, one teacher from each building, one teaching specialist, a principal or 2, and the rest are community members. And I know you have 4 communities, so you can get those people involved. They individually provide feedback to the board based on the profile of attributes. They do not get together as a group to decide who to recommend to you, but individually do it because that's the best way to do it. If it involves more people involve a lot of people in that position. The next item is the service support that we have available to us at the South Central Service Co-op. We have excellent support staff in terms of its clerical. We have capability of getting legal advice when we need it. And we have public information staff to help us advertise the position and do all those things to communicate properly to your communities and to your board and to your staff. Contract assistance is the next one. A lot of people don't want to deal with that. That's kind of my expertise because I used to be a business manager before I became a superintendent. We're very fortunate to have a model contract from the Superintendents Association and MSBA, but it's nice to have an independent person work between the board and the candidate so that everybody gets off at a good feet, because I can say something to them that maybe the board members might be a little bit complex to say that we need to make this adjustment or whatnot in the contract. Mentoring is a big piece that Harold and I both really enjoy doing. Anyone we replace, we mentor them very firmly so that they can be successful in their school district. And of course, by attending these meetings that we do, we see our superintendents that we place quite regularly. The final item here, and we leave it as the final item because you should make the choice of who you think is the best fit for you. We're here to help if you want us, but there is no cost for our service. This is a membership benefit. Your school district has been a member of the Service Club for many years. Our board of directors is made up mostly of school board members just like yourself. This is called a membership benefit. So the only cost we charge back to the school district is about $100 for the binders that we buy and the materials that we print off. Moving on to the next one is the references. If you could move to the next one, Dale.
Okay, we're there.
Here and there, they're great. Last year we did 4 searches, and we did Waseca last year. Dr. Julie Anderson, still their school board chair, you can contact her. We did Jordan last year, Deb Pauley's their chair. We also did Nicollet and Gibbon, Fairfax, Winthrop. We usually do about 4 searches a year in our region. That's about how many are turned over. We don't do them all, MSBA gets a few of them. We're also doing right now 3 other searches right now for this year. We're doing Lake Crystal Local Memorial. We did that in the past. Linda Lighting's on that one. That search we should have wrapped up in the next 2 weeks. We're also doing LeSueur Henderson. Right now, that search should be wound up in the next 2.5 or 3 weeks, Harold, right? And we just started the Martin County West Superintendent search. But your search would, we are capable of bringing in some more retired superintendents to help us so we can serve every district that we serve in the best way possible. Leaving that, I'm going to go to what's usually called a study session, and we don't have time tonight to go through the study session, but I'm going to go through it real quickly. If you decide to use us, we'll probably want to come back at your next meeting and go through this and firm it up a little bit. Dale's got it up, thank you. You see what's usually on that agenda, and I'm going to go move on to page 2. At the bottom of page 2 is the different components of our search process. And once again, you can look through those. They're pretty much standard for MFBA and all the other search services. The only thing that's different, I think, is once again, is we involve more staff, parents, community members than the other services because we have time to do it. And then the other piece was the mentoring piece, that last item. Most of the other searches, they don't have staff available like Harold and I are to mentor the new people intensively. The key page is on page 3, if you go to that, Dale. I know I'm going fast, but I think you've got to be a little bit tired. I know you've had a long board meeting, but slow me down if I'm going too fast. This is the schedule that we recommend to you, but we need to have a meeting to finalize this schedule. We need to get out there. The candidate pool for superintendents has been declining for years because principals have tenure, superintendents don't, and the issues facing superintendents now, especially as COVID, has gotten so large that many administrators can be a principal in a larger school district and make as much money as they make in your district and still have tenure. So important that we get this search process going. As I said, Harold and I are doing 3 searches now. We are working with a lot of candidates right now. And the earlier you get out to do the search, whether you use us or someone else and get the schedule going, the better off you're going to be, because there's probably only about 20 real highly qualified candidates in our region. And there may be more searches than even yours based on what we're seeing. So what we'd recommend is that we post we do board planning and post the position from January through February 19th. The posting would end. The board planning is doing it, engaging your community and engaging your staff and what those attributes should be, and doing that online survey and having other meetings to create that profile. We'd recommend that March 1st through March 5th, we would complete the first round of candidates, and we would say we only bring in candidates that we think can do the job. And right now, in the first round of interviews, we select the candidates for interview. You end up approving them though, and but we recommend that you probably be looking at 4 to 6 candidates to interview. But we screen, recruit, and make the recommendation to you on the candidates to be selected. We do allow all board members, though, individually to come in and look at the papers of the candidates that have applied. Superintendent candidate, maybe MSBA mentioned this to you, superintendent candidate information is confidential information until candidates are invited for an interview in blank. It's an A, B, C, D, and she may have went through that with you. There's some real restrictions on data privacy on superintendent candidates that actually make it hard now for the board themselves to do a superintendent search, and that's why you see so many people using consulting firms to do it. Then what we recommend is that first round of interviews of 4 to 6 candidates occur between March 1st and March 5th. We would then narrow that candidate pool down to 2 candidates who would come in for final interviews sometime between March 8th and March 12th. Then at your regular board meeting on March 15th, the goal would be to approve a new superintendent for your district. I know it's an aggressive schedule, but I think that's our recommendation. You're going to have better candidates now. If we wait another 2, 3 weeks or a month, many of them are going to be gone because we expect many more searches to occur around the state of Minnesota. The actual dates are listed on page 4, Bill, the next page. So that you have those and the times, but that's where we need to have a meeting, because I know all of you people are busy, and we need an actual schedule based on your calendars. But what we want to do is make those dates work sometime within that time frame so we can get done by your board meeting on March 15th. Page 5 is the finalist interview schedule, which we've had. This is what we normally do on the finalist interview schedule. We would still want the candidate to meet with the superintendent, get a district tour. We want the candidate to meet with the administrative team because they want to meet with the administrative team. And the administrative team is not only just the principals. If you have a food service director, building and grounds director, athletic director, all those folks are invited to this meeting because the new superintendent will want to meet with those people. And that's an informal session. But your administrative team will also be giving the board feedback individually based on that profile. There's no group feedback coming from any one group. It's all individual because you need to make the final decision. So it's all confidential. Those people do not know what each other are saying. It's on a feedback form. But they do feel, I think, empowered by the fact that they can be involved in the process. And I think you want to find a superintendent that has support from their administrative team because they'll be much more successful if they have buy-in to that. In the past, we've had a candidate meeting with the community where we allow community and staff members to come in and ask the candidate questions. Right now, we do not recommend that because of COVID-19. And we usually had informal dinner with the school board. We don't recommend that, but we do recommend that final interview with the school board in that particular time. Once again, we have finalized those things in a more concrete planning session. Page 6, there's the questions that we ask to create that profile learning. This is the questions that go online, and your staff, citizens, students, and want each board member to fill this out too. What are the strengths of your district? What are the biggest challenges? What needs to be done to improve academic achievements and the operation of your school district? And describe the skills and ability the new superintendent should possess. Those are key questions we need to know as we recruit and interview candidates. It's all about finding the right fit. You don't need 30 candidates and not have the right fit. But we need 1 out of 10 if we could get it. So that's the goal, is to have us understand those particular things. The next page is page 7. That's that community interview team that I talked about. We recommend that the 4 teachers be on the community interview team. I know you don't have 4 buildings, so that's 1 from each building. We still recommend 4 teachers, 1 from elementary, 1 from secondary, and 1 or 2 junior high, and 1 teaching specialist usually. And then 2 administrators, and then 4 to 6 or 7 community members. You have 4 communities, and you try to get people from each one of those communities to serve on this volunteer committee to also interview the candidates during the semi-final interviews. And once again, they give individual feedback. And Harold and I divide up the 2 groups. Harold and I are with the board, and the other one is with the community committee. And it's been quite successful. We've done over 40 searches in the last 10 years, and we have modified the process to work pretty well. Page 8 is the letter to the community committee, and that's just the draft, of course, because we haven't finalized that yet. Now, page 9 is the sample feedback form that we have community committees members give, and staff members talking about the strength of the candidate, the areas of concerns and other comments. We've kind of changed it. We're using a different format right now. We're actually using in Lake Crystal, we've come up with 8 attributes that the new superintendent should possess. And we're having each community and staff member say yes, they think that candidate has it, or no, or neutral. And then still the bottom line is what's really helpful to the school board usually is how much support those community members and staff have for each person. The last item, and then I'll open it up for, well, there's 2 items, I guess. Last item is the salary and benefits. We need to know what you're willing to pay. You notice the survey has your school district on it right now. You're right in range where you need to be for salary, in our opinion. I know that you notice that the 403B match, it's because Dale probably wanted some money going in there. We'd probably reduce that to up the salary, but your cost should stay about the same. You should be in about the 140 range with about $3,000 for a tax shelter annuity match to recruit the kind of candidates that you would want to get. The final item in our packet is the agreement. If you choose to use our service, the board chair, after you take a motion to approve us, would sign 2 contracts and send it to our office, and we'd be ready to go. And if you notice, the estimated cost is between $100 and $150, but you should use the consultant that you think best meets your needs, because this is such an important process. Mr. Remy, anything you would like to add? Otherwise, I'll turn it over for questions.
The only thing I would add is a question to the board, and that is, would you intend to have the interviews in person or do them virtually?
Yeah, that isn't that far. With the timeline you have, there's a chance that we obviously won't be out of the pandemic. So I think there will be a balance. However, it's not a lot of people involved either. So distancing, and there's a little value in person here too. Do you have a recommendation?
Well, maybe I'll add in. What we're doing in Lake Crystal is we're doing the semifinal reviews of Zoom for both the community committee and the board. The board is going to do the 2 finalists because there'll just be 1 person coming in each day with social distancing and 1 meeting on site. That would have to, I think that's a good way to go if the pandemic is in a state that is fairly neutral, but
right.
I think we'll have to be flexible to see what the conditions are when we get to those dates.
Right. Yeah.
I spoke with the LeSueur Anderson board tonight, and they're interview process is going to be about 2 weeks later than Lake Crystal. So there might be a change in what we can and cannot do based on how COVID is going.
Right, right. I do see a value in having some in-person contact, though, in the finalist positions at least, and in social distancing there. So I think we'd be flexible, I guess would be my answer, and other board members can chime in on that too, but that's the way I would picture it.
That's nice to know, because as we talk to potential candidates, they sometimes want to ask that question,
Right.
whether it be in person or virtual.
Other questions for us?
They're all
Well,
they're reflecting and thinking right now.
Well, with that, we thank you for this opportunity, and we'll look forward to working for us if you think we're the best fit for you. So we wish you much success either way, and whoever your new superintendent is, if we're involved in the process or not, as we worked with Dale, we'll continue to support your district in any way possible. So thank you for this opportunity.
We appreciate the work you do for us too, so thanks there, and thanks for joining us this evening. I know this was short notice and we were late here tonight, but greatly appreciate everything you do for us, and this again is a great help for us. So
Right.
we'll let you know with our decision here.
Sounds good. Thank you so much. Have a great evening.
Have a
Thank
good
you.
evening. Thanks.
How many people have been through this before? Is it just you and Joanne, or the rest? Or
Travis has been
Travis
involved.
has been involved? Okay.
Because we use those guys, right? For
Correct.
when we found Dr. Carlson, isn't that correct? The South Central. Wasn't it?
And I was trying to
I don't
think,
think it was School Board Association.
I think
Well, it was.
it was before, but
I don't remember the fees.
Harold, are you still with us?
Yes, I am.
Hi, Harold. Rick again. Can you refresh our memory? The question just came up here on, we've worked with, or I remembered working with you. Was that through the School Board Association, or was that through the Service Co-op?
I think you're talking about doing a strategic plan. I worked with the service and with the NSBA doing the strategic plan.
Okay.
Right. You and Jeff Olson helped us with our strategic planning.
Sure, sure.
Right.
Okay, that clarifies that, because yeah, a couple of us remember you well
remember
from
him.
working with you
Yeah.
in the past, so again, appreciate that, but okay.
Good luck. Good luck with your decision making.
All right.
I'll sign up.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it. Have a good evening. Thank you.
Still, I mean, I know we're still public, but
Yeah.
I just, for whatever reason, I believe, just I recall some of the contacts that I had received. I thought it was School Board
Sure,
Association.
it
at that
very
time.
well could be. I don't know that the School Board Association
I don't remember.
charged.
I don't remember the fees like that.
Right, and I think that may have been something they ran into, of incurring costs and trying to balance budgets there, and I think that's new, that fee based through the School Board Association.
Wasn't that a shorter timeline though, too?
The School Board Association?
No, I just
Oh,
meant
excuse-
when
we
Mr.
hired, oh,
Carlson
yes, yeah,
was
we
there.
were into those situations where they were, what they were referring to is, we had a resignation, that was
Mid-June.
mid-June, so yeah, we didn't have a lot of time. But they did help us through, and I think they did some contacting and had some available candidates. People know people that know people, and it's kind of a value that way. But 2 samples here tonight, and again, I think you heard the tone of both of them, that sooner is better than later on that candidate pool situation. I by no means want to make anyone feel rushed here on the decision-making process, but again, board member contacted on information of private companies do exist out there, and I think Mr. Waltman said it best. you know, whoever can do the best job for us is the one to go with. However, the unknown, we don't know who that is until we have our candidate and perhaps our superintendent for some time before we know how successful we are. So you guys do some talking on where your comfort level is as far as how you want to move forward. Again, like I said, we can make a decision tonight, or we can move forward with January 25th agenda item on that budget. But
Well, I don't think you would, I don't think either, I think that either one would be more than fine, but, yeah, we're already paying the fees with the South Central. Well, we have our MSBA too.
Right.
We're paying membership to both. But
correct.
When I compared, the only part I could really compare was the pool that they advertised to. It seemed like MSB had a lot more places where they put the names out to, and it looked like, but I don't know, that as the co-op only went out to like MASA.
Those are some of those, you know, but I think some of that website-based advertising is somewhat repetitive though too. I mean, if you go to the school administrator's website, there's a post there for job opportunities. MSBA, even if we hire the service co-op or move forward with the service co-op, I assume that's still advertised over on MSBA's site. I mean, I don't think they keep that. So I'm not completely concerned about word not getting out either.
Well, I'm very green at this, so that's why.
Well, it's a very good question, because we want every potential candidate to have the opportunity. We don't want to miss a candidate. I'm not so sure advertising or where they advertise it would be a limiting factor between the two, but a valid question. I asked that question to the school board association between privates, and I didn't really get the feel of what more they can do than the school board association. Besides, they might be a little more aggressive on going and tapping on somebody's shoulder and saying, why don't you come?
Say, Mr. Schultz,
Yes.
this is Rich. I just pulled up the MSBA website just for the fun of it, and they do have several postings for superintendent that are being done by the South Central Service Co-op on their website.
Okay. Thank you, Rich. I appreciate that. But I was pretty sure that advertising is kind of a respected attitude, that the school board association isn't going to be disappointed if they don't get our search, or vice versa. I think these are relatively, matter of fact, I think these people have served in both positions actually in both companies. So it isn't don't look at them as competitive companies toward each other. Miss Maloney, are you still with us?
I'm here. My eyes open.
I know.
Well, we do have experience with both, obviously. And I thought those two gentlemen from South Central did a great job on the strategic plan. I enjoyed working. It wasn't both of them, it was Harold.
Okay.
My gut instinct is you set aside the money issue, and money is an issue. But setting that aside, my gut tells me that if it was up to me, and it's not, I'd go with the school board association. But I can't really even tell you why.
Sure.
I guess Rich and I both were on the presentation at the leadership conference about superintendent search, and I was impressed with that. And that was Rich. That was It's the same person here that was presenting tonight, wasn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, same person.
Right.
Yeah. And I thought she did a really nice job there. And that was 20 minutes, so that was rushed too.
Mhm.
And I don't know if we decide to go with school board association, that we need to go with that full-fledged service. I think we should go with one of those lesser involved and less costly plans. And with all that said, I'm not going to be up in arms if the board really wants to go with South Central. They maybe have fewer candidates, but they also serve a smaller region. And they do have some good, some of our neighboring school districts, have had success with them. So I don't know. Those are just kind of my rambling thoughts.
This is a decision we could make. What's the next meeting? The 25th? Is that next Monday?
Right. Right. And that, yeah, that, again, if that is the case and you want more information, I mean, I think we want to do the best job we can here and don't want to rush it on the service co-op. That timeline's aggressive and that clips along pretty good speed there. I don't know when I don't have it in front of me without going back, but their first potential meeting that they would want with us was not too far down the road here, I don't think.
By the middle of February.
Something like that.
Yeah, well, it'd be the first time they would actually, that they'd get it out for advertising as soon as we gave them the nod of how.
I think we're all pretty tired, maybe just, like Travis is saying, just
Do it for.
sleep on it,
for-
and, read through everything and,
Sure. Make it for the 25th,
Make it
make
for
that
the-
decision.
1 week isn't
I
gonna,
don't think
Right.
6 days will
Make-
be the end
make
of
or
it.
break us.
right.
No.
Sounds like a great plan, so,
Can we do that at a work session though?
yeah, we can add an agenda, correct. It'll be a meeting of the board, so we
Yeah,
can,
it's a special school board meeting.
Okay.
We might-
We'll be making decisions there on budget likely, so we'll schedule it as a special school board meeting, and we'll have, this is the first item,
right,
and we'll have budget, and I will be in touch with Rick on that, on the whole learning model issue, whether or not it's
sure.
appropriate or beneficial to have anything Monday night.
Exactly.
But for sure, we'll start with this,
Perfect,
and then move on to budget.
excellent. All right. Thank you, everyone. A lot of big information here tonight, so thanks for hanging with us. This time we would entertain a motion.
Officially adjourned.
We would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Schmidt, seconded by Mr. Ralph to adjourn. Ms. Engel, please.
Terry Engel, aye. Joanne Maloney,
Aye.
Rich Mueller,
Aye.
Travis Rao,
Aye.
Dan Schmidt,
Aye.
Lauren Schoenrock,
Aye.
Rick Schultz.
Aye. We are adjourned. Thanks again.
Thank you, good night.
Good night.
Everybody.
If you want me to get